Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto murdered by the villagers of his own home. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. October 10, 2000. 10 years after what was known throughout the village as the Kyuubi's destruction. 10 years after the extremely frightening night of the sudden appearance of the nine-tailed fox. 10 years after half of the village was destroyed, completely obliterated. 10 years after nearly everyone in the village of Konohagakure had lost someone dear to them. Some people lost their children, their spouses, their parents, their friends, some people lost their entire family, with them being the only ones left. 10 years after their beloved fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, sacrificed himself to slay the giant demon fox. For most, this day, the 10th of October, was the day that the Kyuubi festival was held. The festival was an event that served as an annual reminder to the entire village of the sacrifice that the Yondaime made for them to be safe. It was held in his honor. During the day, an enormous parade was thrown and parties of all kinds were held for people of all ages to enjoy. Games were played, mascots ran around the village, small plays were shown for crowd entertainment, the favorite food of the Yondaime was served the most, large paintings of the night were shown off. It was an event that brought the entire village together. It brought everyone together and they celebrated their lives and their freedoms that was practically granted to them by the now deceased fourth Hokage. The event during the day was thrown to celebrate and praise one person. However, during the evening and late hours of the night, it was thrown to hunt down and torture another. 10:30 p.m. The night was as black as it could be, and the dark clouds overhead wasn't helping any. The clouds poured rain like the faucet of the sky had been turned on full blast. The heavy and cold rain fell like it was almost trying to drown the village in darkness. Even though the rain was so heavy and merciless, it never stopped the mobs from looking for their target. It didn't matter what the weather was like on that particular day. Cold, hot, rainy, snowy, frozen over, winds blowing like a hurricane, it never mattered. The mobs always searched for him. Their sense of vengeance wouldn't let them stop. Naruto Uzumaki had just turned 10 years old today. October 10, 2000. Not that it really mattered to him, his birthdays always sucked. It always ended up in one of two ways. He would either end up in the hospital or somewhere outside in some random alley after he woke up from whoever had beat him unconscious. He tried to avoid the mobs whenever he could. Sometimes it wouldn't even matter if he was outside or not. The people would always break down the door to his shaggy old one-bedroom apartment, that was too small even for him by the way, and literally either drag him outside and start beating him or start beating him in his own home first and then drag him outside to continue the beatings. He quickly learned that the best way to avoid all of it, or as much of it as he could anyway, was to do his best to outrun them. On his birthday though, much more people sought him out, and with an even greater vengeance than usual if it was even possible. Torture was no stranger to him. He was practically its best friend of all time. Torture, for the 10-year-old Naruto, was like a good friend that visited at least 2 to 3 times a week. Some days it would stay longer and be worse than others, but it was always there, like it sought him out personally. Naruto didn't know what he did to deserve all this negative attention. The third Hokage was a piece of shit through and through. He clearly had the power to level the entire village on his own if he really wanted to, while facing against all the shinobi from the village at the same time. He wasn't known as the god of shinobi for no reason you know. And yet, he couldn't spare a few minutes to make sure that he, just a little kid, wasn't beaten to near death every damn week. He would sometimes visit him at the hospital, but it was only to check if he was okay. Of course, he would say he was fine, because he always was. At least, he was physically. Any physical wounds that he had ever received, no matter how severe they were, would always heal overnight, but he never knew how. It didn't matter though, because nothing else ever changed. Honestly, he just wished that this year, he would stop healing. Because at least then, it would all stop. The pain, the loneliness, the glares, the despair, it would all stop if he just stopped healing. Naruto rounded a corner and ran straight into an alleyway that led to a dead end. Damn, he had forgotten about this single dead end in the entire damn village. He must have forgotten about it with the adrenaline rush of him running away from his attackers. This was a particularly bad year. He was just walking to the store to get some more milk because the stuff he had in his fridge was done for. He was always sold moldy or sour food, so he would have to go buy more to replace it every other day or so. His birthday just happened to be one of those days. He figured that he would go later on in the evening, after the main events of the Kyuubi festival were over, that way he wouldn't be spotted so easily. How wrong he was. He had been spotted almost immediately. The second he was spotted by a couple of Chunin, they began to make chase. They soon spread the word that the demon brat was out on the loose. That soon rattled many of the villagers to take up arms in pursuit of the 10-year-old boy whom they believed now was the Kyuubi reincarnate. Although, Naruto didn't know that. Several villagers stopped at the entrance to the alleyway that he was currently in. Several armed villagers in front of him, ready to kill him. Solid concrete wall behind him with absolutely no means to climb over. He was trapped. Where are you gonna run off to now, huh kid? One Chunin asked him. He was wearing the standard green vest and shinobi uniform, with 3 other Chunin behind him, and about 10 villagers armed with various weapons. Things like rakes, shovels, pitchforks, knives, and cleavers were all branded towards him. The 4 total Chunin wielded kunai, but the one in front wielded a ninjutsu, and it gleamed in the moonlight, and the heavy rain made it seem as if it was being cleaned from all dirt and grime, making sure it was in pristine condition for Naruto's execution. Naruto looked around in a panic, desperately trying to find an escape route. He may have thought about dying before to end it all, but his natural instinct to stay alive had kicked in and he was frantic. The Chunin and villagers could tell he was terrified. They could all practically smell it in the thick, rainy air. Please, Naruto screamed out in a terrified voice. I never did anything to you. Please, just let me go. I was just trying to go to the store, I never hurt anyone. Bullshit. One villager, a merchant who sold his fruit in the marketplace, said while wielding a knife in the air. He pointed it at the kid and yelled out, You demon. You killed my wife, and my daughter. I found them buried under the rubble of our house. For that alone, you deserve to die, you filthy beast. And I'm not the only one either. Yeah, that's right, another villager cried out. You killed my dad. One villager yelled out. You destroyed my home. You killed my family. You destroyed everything. You killed children. Children. I never killed anybody, what are you talking about? Naruto yelled out. I'm only 10, how could I kill anyone? That doesn't make any sense. I did nothing wrong. The fact that you don't even remember what you did is even worse, the sword-wielding Chunin said. True, you may have never killed anyone in this form, but in your real form, you monster. The Chunin swung his sword at Naruto, which he just barely dodged. He threw his head back to dodge the swing that was aimed for his neck, but it threw him off balance and he fell on his butt. The water on the solid ground splashed a little, and he winced at the hard fall. He looked up at the Chunin, surprised that he actually tried to kill him. Impressive, the Chunin said to Naruto. Not many Chunin have been able to dodge that swing, it was my fastest one, but you did, and you're not even a genin. That alone proves my point. You are the demon fox, Naruto Uzumaki. Now die. The Chunin charged forward and stabbed Naruto in the shoulder. Naruto cried out in pain as he tried to pull the blade out from his flesh, but the Chunin just smiled grimly and pushed the blade in further. Ah, the sweet smell of demon blood, the Chunin said as he watched Naruto bleed from his shoulder wound. He slowly pressed the blade in further, enjoying watching his victim wince and breathe heavily each passing second the blade went in further. When the blade was finally held deep, the Chunin just simply let go of the blade, leaving the sword stuck in his shoulder. He stood up straight and turned around and looked back over his shoulder as he said to the doomed child, Nice knowing you, kid. I hope you rot in hell, where you belong. Goodbye, demon fox. He turned to face the crowd and said to them all, I got my pound of flesh. He's all yours. The Chunin just walked past all of the charging villagers and 3 remaining Chunin. Naruto cried out in horror and in pain as he was stabbed and beaten multiple times, his blood freely flowing onto the hard and wet cement ground underneath him. 2 hours. For 2 hours, Naruto Uzumaki was beaten and stabbed with multiple weapons of all kinds. Hit with a frying pan on his head by the women, hard enough to crack his skull and enough times to cause his brain to swell. Stabbed enough times to look like he was literally a human pincushion. Beaten with clubs enough times to be completely unrecognizable, as to where only dental records were the only real evidence left to prove his identity, not that anyone would really care. Naruto Uzumaki, at the end of the brutal murder, was completely unrecognizable. Naruto lay down on the hard and wet cement ground, staring up in the dark and stormy clouds that rained down upon him as if they were now crying uncontrollably. His left arm was in tatters. Not the clothing, his real arm was in tatters. It would actually be better for him if it was amputated. His right arm was in no better shape. One kunai was in each kneecap, rendering his legs completely useless. His chest and stomach had been cut so many times with various sharp objects that it just looked like one big bag of bleeding flesh. The only real piece of clothing left was the pants now turned to shorts, that covered his pelvis and midsection. Random spots of his hair had been literally ripped out by the people's bare hands. He only had a few teeth left. One eye was completely swollen shut, while the other one he just barely see through. His neck had a large gash across it, deep enough to cause eventual death, but not immediate death. His windpipe had been crushed to where he would eventually die of suffocation, if not from something else. Naruto Uzumaki was doomed, although, when he looked up at the sky, he smiled. As best as he could anyway. It was finally going to be over. No more pain, no more loneliness, no more glares, no more despair. It would all be over. It would all be finally over. His lone functional eye began to close as he thought to himself, Mom, Dad, whoever you are, whoever you were, I hope I didn't disappoint you. I'm sorry I didn't last very long. Hopefully now, though, I can see you. Hopefully now, I want be, allo. Naruto's lone eye closed and closed for good. He was dead. He had died after some time had passed after his attackers left. When he finally did die, of course no one could see it, but a ghost, something had appeared. The same thing that Minato Namikaze had summoned to seal the fox had appeared and placed its hand upon Naruto's chest once he had passed on. But, what was it there for? Naruto woke up in an extremely dense foggy area. He knew he was on the ground. He could feel the soft dirt underneath him. The dirt was somewhat wet, yet warm at the same time. Normally when something is wet it has a chilly feeling to it, but this dirt was rather warm to the touch. He couldn't see anything though. He brought his hand up to his face and still could not see it, the fog was so thick. His eyes then widened in remembrance of the events that had just occurred. He stood up in a hurry and looked around his surroundings frantically, trying to spot his attackers. Still able to see nothing due to the fog, he began to panic. He was glad that the pain was over, but he definitely did not want to feel it again. It was the single most brutal event that had ever happened to him. He felt his life fading at the end, so why was he still alive? Calm yourself, child, a haunting voice said to him. It sounded like it was right behind him, and yet all around him at the same time. He continued to look around, still finding nothing. Suddenly, the incredibly dense fog just dispersed. Naruto was shocked at his environment. He was standing in a completely barren battlefield. Miles upon miles of flat land with the occasional tree or hill decorated the horizon. Thousands and thousands of various swords were stabbed into the ground. Katanas, broadswords, rapiers, ninjatus, any and every kind of sword was stuck in the ground. And the ground? Hundreds of spots on the ground were covered in blood. Naruto looked down and saw himself standing in a puddle of blood on the ground. He took a couple of steps to the right, then forward, back, every which direction. No matter where he went, the single puddle of blood followed him. It was like a physical shadow that never left his side. A constant reminder to him of the brutal and yet unnecessary death he had been dealt. So then, why? Why was he even alive? You are not alive, child, the voice said again. Who are you? Naruto called out. Where are you? Show yourself. Only a child, and yet demanding something from me. A true testament to your pure soul, the voice said again. A cold and frightening chill ran down Naruto's spine. You wish to know who or what I am? Think, where are you from? When those of you who are from die, where do you think they go? Who do you think takes them? Who sealed your father? I don't know who my father is, Naruto said quietly and afraid. Ah, of course you do not, you were never told. They told you nothing, nothing but lies. Excuse me, but I wasn't ever told anything, Naruto said. Telling a lie openly and withholding the truth are one and the same. You were not told the truth in any form at any time, therefore you were lied to. I honestly am disappointed in the leaders of your village. Most people of your area, the elemental nations, when they die, I send them to hell. However, I spare the souls of the pure and the kind-hearted. You, child, are the purest soul if I have ever seen one. I'm sorry, but I don't know who you are, Naruto said. I have already given you hints, child. However, I cannot expect much from someone who has been shunned from his own world. I, child, am the one responsible for holding the beast that once resided within you. I, child, am the one currently holding you here. I, child, alone am the single most frightening name spoke within the elemental nations. I, child. Then, right in front of Naruto, a ghost-like form appeared. It had very long and wild-like white hair, and had the face of a demon with black eyes and a dagger in its mouth. It wore flowing white robes that were transparent, and its hands were long and claw-like. But what stood out to Naruto the most were the demonic teeth that seemed to smile at him as it said, "I'm the Shinigami." Naruto suddenly had a burst of both fear and respect. He didn't know what else to do, so he did the only thing he knew to do to someone in such high regard. He kneeled to the ground and bowed his head, even though he was scared. More scared than he had ever been. You have never seen or heard of me, child, and yet you already know how to show respect. Another testament to your purity. Naruto Uzumaki, I am holding you here for one reason. You are pure of both heart and soul, therefore, you are given the opportunity to make a choice. A choice of what, sir? Naruto asked politely. Between life and death. You may choose to move on, and your spirit will go on in peace. Or, you may choose to return to the world of the living. However, be forewarned. If you choose to return to the world of the living, you will not return in your original body. What do you mean, sir? Naruto asked innocently. The Shinigami waved his hand and an image appeared, showing a ghostly form of a man covered in a black and white looking skin with green eyes, and an incredibly large red cape flowing behind him. The only way I would be able to allow to return to the human world is if I let a member of the 7th house of K, Letha, attach herself to you. Letha is a symbiote, which means it needs a host in order to survive. If it attaches herself to you, you will be allowed to return to your homeworld in this form that you see here. Will I always look like that? Naruto asked, pointing at the image. The Shinigami waved his again and Naruto watched the ghost-like image had the cape wrap around him tightly and then begin to morph the body. After a few seconds, the man in the black and white skin and green eyes had turned into Naruto himself. Letha gives you the ability to turn into your old self, although for a period of time. After a while, unless you voluntarily transform back into the other form, your body will slowly revert back into the form that you were given. There are many other abilities that are only limited to your imaginations. Your only price to pay would be to send me more souls. I free your soul for the price of having Letha attach herself to you, and you send souls back to me. When you deliver 100 souls to me, your life and Letha is yours to do as you please. But can't you just send me back? Naruto asked. You are the Shinigami. Sir, I am the Shinigami, the taker of souls, I am not the creator. I cannot break the rules, but I can bend them. This is your only chance, and the time has come. Naruto Uzumaki. What do you choose? Do you choose death? The Shinigami raised his left hand and a doorway appeared from the ground. The door opened slowly, and a beautiful white light came through the doorway. Or life? The large red cape that Naruto had seen in the ghost had suddenly appeared and was flowing in the wind like it had a mind of its own. It then stopped flowing uncontrollably and folded in on itself and slowly took the shape of a woman. It was still the red cape, but it looked like it was covering a female mannequin with giant breasts and a beautiful smile. It held out its hand towards him and mouthed his name. Naruto thought long and hard about his decision. He could really be at peace and move on. Or 10 years. For 10 years he had been the most miserable person on the face of the planet. The pain, the loneliness, the glares, the misery, the hatred. What was life all about anyway if you couldn't have a little fun? To Naruto, it was payback time. Shinigami, sir, I choose life. Naruto said, motivated to get back at quite a few fuckers. Life it is. Letha, he and you shall be one. The last thing Naruto saw before he lost consciousness was the cape woman had smiled and then suddenly wrapped around him. Naruto wasn't aware that he could still hear, but he listened as the Shinigami said to him while he was being wrapped. Naruto Uzumaki, your father was Minato Namikaze, the legendary Yellow Flash, the 4th Hokage. Your mother was Kushina Uzumaki, the red-hot habanero. The nine-tailed fox, the Kyuubi, Kurama, was also a victim. It was being controlled by someone extremely powerful and was forced to attack your village. Your parents sacrificed themselves to protect both you and the village. Your parents loved you very much, and gave their dying breaths to defend you. Your parents wished that you would be a hero within the village of Konohagakure, but their wishes were spit on. Avenge your murder. Kill those on the civilian council, and the third Hokage for allowing your misery and your death. Kill those who killed you. Any who have wronged you, destroy them all, send their souls to me. Naruto Uzumaki. With that, both the red cape and Naruto disappeared. The single puddle of blood that Naruto had stood upon faded out of existence. It has been 10 years since your death, Uzumaki. Only a few have mourned your death. The timeline would have been much different if you had remained alive. Sasuke is a real patriot, the third Hokage lives, and Jiraiya, your godfather, still lives. Your godmother, Tsunade Senju, never knew of her status as your godmother. She has been searching for you frantically, never believing the fact that you had in fact died. And Kurama has regenerated after your death and is located in the mountains of the village, and is in a deep slumber, waiting for you to return to him. Kurama may be the destructive one, but he is also the most honorable one. This knowledge shall reach you, Uzumaki, and I do believe I shall receive more than 100 souls, ha 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 ha. Naruto woke up on the same spot that he had been killed, in the center of that death trap of an alleyway. Once again, the rain was coming down as if it was trying to drown the village. The moonlight was occasionally shining through the storm clouds. The lightning stabbed the sky like spears of fury, and the thunder rolled across the sky almost constantly. Naruto's eyes opened to take everything in. Things were a little blurry at first, but he had to admit that he definitely felt completely different. He felt bigger, like he had just had a major growth spurt or something. Then, he remembered the words of the Shinigami as he was being wrapped up in red. It has been 10 years since your death. Naruto looked at a nearby puddle of water that had formed from all of the constant rain, and saw that he was bald and his skin was slightly scarred. It wasn't terribly scarred, but enough to where he wasn't recognizable. He looked at his hands and realized that they were about twice the size of the ones from his 10-year-old body. He was 10 years old when he died, and the Shinigami said that it was 10 years since then, which would put him in the body of a 20-year-old man. He realized that he already had all of the knowledge that he would have acquired if had been alive the whole time, which he was sure to be because of the death god. He suspected that it wouldn't have done him much good to collect the souls of his attackers if he was still with the mind of a 10-year-old, something he definitely would have a hard time dealing with right now. He looked at his attire and realized that he was currently wearing a rather decent-looking black cotton trench coat that reached down to his ankles. The collar was up high and it had a hood which currently rested on his back. His shirt was also black, but it was made of what seemed like silk. His pants were night black cargo pants and he wore black combat boots that were almost knee-high. He looked at his hands and saw that he was also wearing black gloves made of leather with 4 silver studs that were above the knuckles. He looked ahead and saw that even though it was raining, there were still quite a few people out at the moment, most likely just enjoying the nightlife. He stood up and donned his hood that was more than big enough to cover his head. Looks like the hood from Ezio's Assassin's Creed, but pitch black. Imagine Sephiroth's outfit from FF7, but also with a shirt and a hood. Determined to start his task since being reborn, he prepared to step out into the streets when a thug ran in the alleyway, dragging a dark blue-haired woman by her hand and then threw her up against the wet brick wall and placed a rough hand over her mouth and the other held one of her hands firmly up against the wall behind her as he whispered roughly, "You aren't going to tease me so damn much in the club like that and then just expect to run off without finishing the job." The man, now that Naruto could see better, was wearing a Chunin vest over a jacket. The man had shoulder-length long hair, and Naruto thought that he had recognized the voice but paid closer attention. Fortunately for him, the Chunin, whoever he was, hadn't even noticed him in the shadows not even 10 feet away from him. And he was supposed to be a ninja. What a joke. The Chunin said to the dark blue-haired woman, "Now, you can either do this the easy way, and we'll both have a good time. Or, we can do this the hard way, and I cut you up while only I have a good time. Which is it gonna be, sweetheart?" Naruto's eyes widened as he recognized the man's voice. It was a little rougher, due to the additional 10 years of age, but there was no mistaking it. It was the man that had inflicted the first wound, the man with the sword. Naruto's eyes narrowed as what seemed to be green mist glow from his eyes. He walked up and grabbed the Chunin by the back of his vest and threw him up against the wall on the opposite side. The Chunin hit the wall and grunted in pain as he was dazed for a second from the force of the impact. He looked up to see a black-robed figure with a dark hood on as he reached for his throat. Naruto gripped the Chunin's throat tightly as he lifted him in the air and said to him, "Long time no see, motherfucker." Who? Are you? The Chunin said while trying to gasp for air. What's the matter? Naruto asked. You don't recognize your own handiwork? You helped other Chunin and villagers in successfully killing me, 10 years ago, right here in this very valley. What the hell? Are you talking about? The Chunin gasped again. You stabbed me in the shoulder and as you turned around and left, you told the other villagers to finish the job. Naruto almost screamed out. The Chunin's eyes narrowed for a minute as he tried to remember, but then widened as realization came to him. Demon brat. So you do recognize me, Naruto said to the man. His grip tightened even further, and the ninja desperately tried breaking the iron grip that was around his throat. You killed me. I'm here to return the favor. Naruto brought the Chunin back and slammed him up against the wall over and over again, each time the brick wall cracking more and more. The Chunin was losing consciousness and fast. Unfortunately for the Chunin, Naruto didn't want the man to pass out from the pain. You little bitch, Naruto said to him as he dropped the man on the ground. You all beat me, tortured me, and so much more, but you can't handle a little bit of pain. You deserve to die. Prepare to meet the Shinigami, you bastard. Naruto picked the man up and pinned him up against the cracked brick wall. Naruto brought his fist back and was amazed that small spikes and evil-looking hooks popped out of his fist. Naruto smiled grimly and launched his fist at the man's skull. Hinata, shocked by the sudden appearance, was frozen as she watched the entire occurrence take place right in front of her and winced as her attacker's skull exploded on impact. She watched as the black-robed figure retrieve his fist and the spikes and hooks retract into the man's fist. The man let go of the corpse and watched as it crumbled into a bloody heap on the ground. The man shook his fist, shaking the blood and gore off. He then slowly turned to face her and she had to admit that she was both afraid and turned on by the mystery and the power from the figure. He stared at from that emptiness of the hood from where his face was supposed to be. Naruto turned and walked out into the streets without another word. Hinata, after a moment's reprieve, suddenly found herself again and tried to run out and thank the man, but by the time she was out in the streets also, he was already long gone. She didn't understand though, he couldn't have just vanished. She vowed to herself that she would find him and thank him someday. She turned to go back to the hotel she was currently staying at with her friends, but then stopped dead as she remembered what the figure had said to the Chunin. He said that he had been killed 10 years ago, in that very spot. Only Naruto was killed in that spot and 10 years ago. What the hell is going on? It can't be? Hinata exclaimed, shaking her head and thinking it was just an effect from the alcohol she had consumed earlier that night. She decided to go to her hotel room and just sleep it off. Naruto stood on top of the Hokage monument, staring at the Hokage's mansion. His black trench coat flapped in the rainy wind. He recognized the fact that he had let his tongue slip about the events that had happened to him 10 years ago, and that Hinata had recognized it. Potentially, anyway. He wasn't entirely sure of what she knew or didn't know, but he knew one thing. He couldn't let it happen again. He was glad that he was alive again, to an extent, but he also had a mission, which was to collect the souls of his attackers and the higher-ups responsible for their negligence towards him, plus the amount of souls that he needed to obtain a total of 100. He didn't really care who it was, but he had already concluded the fact that he would not condemn the innocent or the ones who weren't corrupted. He would only target the ones that deserved to have their shit devoured by the Shinigami. Naruto looked down at the fist that he had used to pulverize the Chunin's head earlier and remembered the spikes and talon-like hooks that had come out of it. It was strangely satisfying, knowing the fact that he could do something like that. The surprising thing was that he had felt absolutely no pain whatsoever when they had come out, as if they had always been there, just waiting to be used. He began to wonder what else he could do with this newfound body. He remembered the death god telling him something about a letha, granting him overwhelmingly powerful abilities, but random spikes coming out of your fist? In a world where people could create copies of themselves and spew fireballs the size of buildings, this was something new. Naruto had never once heard of anyone spontaneously creating weapons from their skin. Naruto smiled grimly as he let his imagination wander. It was then that he heard a voice inside of his head. Naruto? Naruto turned around wildly, thinking that someone had snuck up on him. He slowly took in his surroundings. Finding nothing, he narrowed his eyes in suspicion as to who, or what, had just spoken to him. Naruto, it is I, Letha. Then Naruto stood up straight and was quite surprised. He remembered seeing a giant red cape fold on itself to take the shape of a woman. It was like an origami piece. The paper would be folded and manipulated to make a shape, but it was still a piece of paper. Was Letha that red cape that he had seen briefly while in company with the Shinigami? What exactly was this, Letha? I am bound to you, Naruto, the voice said to him. It sounded within him and everywhere at the same time, but he knew that it was inside of his head. I am Letha, the daughter of the 7th house of Ki was created in hell. No, I am not a person, in a way that you will understand. Perhaps you could consider me as a type of parasite, or rather, a symbiote. I attach myself to your central nervous system and your body, keeping me alive. In return, I give you powers and abilities that even the strongest chakra users in this world could not do. You literally hold the power of hell in your hands. But what can you do exactly? And what are you, physically? I saw you as a red cape, I think, Naruto said out loud. You do not have to speak aloud in order to communicate with me, Naruto. Remember, I am attached to your nervous system. I will know what you think, or what you need, even before you do. And I can take many different forms, but none that are permanent. The red cape is my main form, as well as the black symbiote suit that you will, very soon, inherit. However, be forewarned. The process in obtaining the suit will be extremely painful. What exactly are you talking about? What suit? Naruto asked. He didn't care that he didn't have to talk aloud, it felt good doing so. Plus, no one was around to hear him anyway. It is a suit that acts as both a second skin and can also be considered Hell's armor. The suit will morph and protect you both when you think it and when you do not. For example, if you are targeted from behind and do not realize it, the suit will act on its own to defend and protect you. Or rather, I will, as the suit is also a part of me. That sounds pretty cool, Naruto said. Hey, Letha, right? What happened here in Konoha? Why is everything so technological now? In the 10 years following your death, Konohagakure has allowed some of the technological advances of the world slip inside to make the lives of its citizens a little more comfortable. In a world of ninjas, it is a hard life. The third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, soon approved it after your death. The current fifth Hokage, Tsunade Senju, has approved of its continuation, if only in small amounts. Speaking of Tsunade Senju, she still has not given up on your search. She always has a search party of 5 Anbu ninja in circulation every month, for the past 8 years. The first 2, she did not know of you at all. Then, she had discovered about her supposed relationship to you, and immediately began her search for you. Wasn't she told of my murder? Naruto asked the hell-created symbiote. She has, but you, the only real family she had left, gave her the motivation to move on with life. For some reason she has refused to give up. It sounds like she's the only to really give a damn about me at all, Naruto stated sourly. Indeed, Naruto, it is almost time for you to receive the official black suit derived from hell itself. Are you ready? I guess so. Naruto then suddenly screamed out in severe pain as 4 small spikes protruded from his chest. He fell to knees and his upper body fell forward as he clutched his midsection in agony. Then, multiple black spike-like protrusions emerged from every part of his body. Then, they all spilt apart into thinner plates and began to encase his body. Think of the actual scene of Spawn. When Al Simmons gets the suit in the cemetery, you can see it on YouTube for clarity. That's what's happening now. He sits up and, still in severe pain, feels the armor literally envelope him. He feels the power and strength of the armor, of his new skin. The same black plates encase his head and the white armor plates appear on his face, and his eyes glow an eerie green. Naruto then feels the large red cape, also known as a shroud, emerge from him. Naruto slowly stands up as the pain lessens. He looks at himself and can't help but feel extremely powerful and grateful, despite the horrible pain he had just gone through. It was almost nothing compared to the actual pain during his lifetime. He looked at his hands and thought of a sword. Suddenly, a long and somewhat curved blade emerged from the top portion of his forearm, like Baraka from MK. The blade retracted, and he couldn't help but feel that for once, someone had actually said what was going to happen, what he would get, and it actually happened. Finally, someone who said it straight. Finally, someone didn't try to backstab him. He looked up at the night sky and did the only thing that he could do. He laughed. He laughed that he could finally be free of everything. Free of all the negatives, free of everyone who had wanted to kill him or shun him. Now, he was in control. He had to admit, it felt damn good. Behold, the symbiotic suit from hell. I will protect you, I will guide you, I will collect the souls for you. You said this suit and cape and stuff had the ability to do a large number of things, right? That is correct. Can use it to transform into my old self? Before I died? Yes. Fuic YYYEAHHHHH. Ha 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 ha, Naruto chuckled evilly. Finally, time to get some much needed revenge against this god-forsaken village. Time for the hunt. I agree, Letha, Naruto said as he looked over the village, his incredibly large red shroud blowing in the wind. I agree completely. Down in the village, Hinata was in her hotel room with Ino and Sakura on their girls' night out. Hinata had walked in and saw that they had not yet returned from the club they were just at. Ever since more and more technology entered the village, so too did the living situations. Entire families did not have to live in compounds if they did not wish it, especially since large apartment complexes had been built. Hinata was now living in one of those complexes. She worked at the Hokage mansion as one of the clerks there, since her younger sister, Hanabi, had taken over as head of the Hyuga clan. Hinata wasn't any longer in a negative standing within the clan, however, too much damage had been done to the princess during her time with her clan, driving her to want a separate life from them all. Sakura and Ino both worked as supervisors at the Konoha village hospital. The three women, now all 20 years old, had become close friends soon after Naruto's death. In the academy, the news had been spread about his death, and it had spread rather quickly. As expected, unfortunately, the results were mostly the same. Either some were rather glad about it, or just simply indifferent. Only Hinata, Ino, Sakura, Iruka, and Kiba had really cared. Hinata had admired Naruto. Sakura had been annoyed at Naruto due to her massive crush on Sasuke, but Ino was the one who had had the major crush on Naruto. Hinata had one as well, but not on such a larger scale as Ino did or like Sakura did with Sasuke. And Kiba was one of Naruto's really close acquaintances, not quite a friend, but close. Kiba realized though what kind of a bond they very well could have had though, and therefore, was very stunned when he also had heard about the death of his potential friend. Then, rumors about how it was more of a murder than a normal death had been circulating. Unfortunately, it was still the same result. Most either were glad or just didn't care. On the other hand, it had hurt the three girls and the Inuzuka even harder. Just the rumor itself hurt, but if it was all true? They never heard the details, but even so, the murder of a 10-year-old was very hard for them to grasp. Hinata was sitting on the edge of her bed in the hotel room that the three girls were sharing. All the girls had had a particularly rough week at their respective jobs, and had decided to have a get-together and celebrate being friends. Hinata, Sakura, and Ino were at a club dancing with a few men and having plenty of drinks when Hinata said that she wanted to go back to the hotel, due to her saying that she had had enough to drink for one night. She had tried to persuade Ino and Sakura to come as well, but they refused, but did say that they would be there soon, after they had gotten a few more drinks. Luckily for all three of them, the hotel was literally down the street from the club they were just at. She had just walked outside to get some fresh air when she had then had the hand clamped over her mouth and was taken for a ride as the man that had grabbed her shushed away and ended up in the alley, which of course the following event that had happened. It was that event that had been on her mind for the past half an hour. The black-robed man said that he was stabbed in the shoulder by the Chunin, and that he was the official instigator of his murder 10 years ago, in that very same spot, in this very alley. Hinata knew that only one person was killed in an alley at all in that year, or any other year in the past decade. Any and all other deaths that had occurred, while unfortunate, were out on the battlefield. She knew because she was the one who had helped file the death certificates and reports as her first task when accepting the job at the Hokage mansion under the third Hokage. But, there's no way, Hinata said, standing up quickly. She began to pace back and forth rather quickly, racking her brain over and over about the various possibilities in their chakra-natured world. The ninja in the various ninja villages could perform hundreds upon hundreds of otherwise impossible feats using their chakra. So why not raise the dead? It can't be though, Hinata said to herself. Who would raise him? Who would raise who? Ino said as she and Sakura walked in with Kiba. Ino was, as usual, wearing an extremely tight purple cotton top that showed off her nipples. Since the academy, she had been more and more showy of her body. She wasn't a hoe or anything, but she was definitely proud of her voluptuous body, and wasn't afraid to show it off. Her long and flowing blonde hair was loose and easily reached her rear. She wore a silver necklace with a silver fox pendant. Her red lipstick provided a strong contrast to her blonde hair. She held a purple purse in her hands and wore a blue bracelet on one hand. Sakura was wearing a sleeveless white shirt that clung to her body but wasn't skin-tight, and a knee-length pink skirt that had short slits on either side, and black high-heeled shoes. Her pink hair had grown much longer, reaching her butt now, and she had let it loose. She had a small black purse hanging off of one shoulder. Kiba, who had seen them on the way to the hotel and offered to walk them to their room, was wearing a white t-shirt underneath a dark gray wool coat and wore dark gray pants. On one leg he had his kunai pouch wrapped around it, and he still wore his shinobi sandals. His hair was still short and untamed. Just because he was more into the style of dress nowadays did not mean that he wasn't ready for a battle at a moment's notice. What's going on, Hinata? Kiba asked her. Is everything okay? Yes, everything's okay. Well, no, everything's not okay. I mean, I don't know. Hinata exclaimed emotionally. Hey girl, relax, Ino said to her compassionately. We're here now, okay? Did something happen to you? Did someone come after you? Are you sick? No, Hinata answered Ino. I was attacked on the way back here. By who? Kiba yelled out protectively. Who the fuck attacked you, Hinata? I'll rip that son of bitch in hell. He's already dead, Hinata pointed out. Kiba, Sakura, and Ino were quite shocked to hear the blunt statement from the Hyuga princess. How did you kill him? Sakura asked her. I didn't, Hinata said to her pink-haired friend. Someone else did, and the weird thing is, I think I know exactly who did it. Well, who was it? Ino said to her friend. Who was your hero, Hyuga princess? It's not funny, Hinata said. I know you've been drinking, Ino, but come on. Yeah, sorry, Ino said as she hiccuped. Seriously though, who was it? You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Hinata told all three of them. Hinata, Sakura began, it's okay, you can tell us anything. I don't know. Hinata hesitated. Come on Hinata, Kiba encouraged, go ahead. It's alright. That's the thing, it's not alright. Hinata said to them. That's why I'm so upset. Okay. Well, you keeping it to yourself isn't going to help anyone here, Ino said matter-of-factly. Okay, well, Hinata began, he was pretty tall, and he wore a very dark trench coat that reached his ankles, and a large black hood covered his face completely. I could only see his green eyes, and they seemed to literally glow and smoke? I think? I'm not entirely sure, but I do know what I heard him say. Which was? Kiba asked her. He said to the guy, a Chunin, that he had killed him in that very alley that we were in that very spot. So? Ino asked Hinata. What's so special about that? He specifically said that alley, that spot, killed by that Chunin and several villagers, 10 years ago, when he was just 10 years old. Don't you get it? All three looked like they were clueless. Hinata stood up exasperated and confused at the same time. She covered her face in her hands and began to cry softly. It was then that Ino's face came to life with realization. Ali, murder, 10 years ago, 10 years old, it's impossible, Ino said loudly as she stood up quickly. She faced the crying Hyuga and said to her in a quiet whisper, Are you saying that Naruto is alive? Sakura and Kiba were clearly shocked. Even more so as Hinata looked up at her friend with mascara tears streaming down her cheeks as she said, That's exactly what I'm saying. Even gods can die. Stood behind the tree with the swing hanging off of the large limb that was in the academy grounds. He stood in the shadows, not because anyone was there, but because he wanted to be cautious. This was after all a ninja village, You never knew who was where or if anyone was tailing you. And if you did, it normally meant you were being led to somewhere they wanted you to be at. In a ninja village, you could never be too careful. The swing brought back memories for him. Obviously, none of them good. He did this because he was starting to have doubts about the actions he wanted to do. While traveling from the top of the Hokage mountain, he saw several of the people in the village walking out in the streets, enjoying themselves. He was able to go through the areas thanks to the red shroud, Letha. It had enveloped him and made him completely invisible. He saw many of the people going to restaurants, going to parties, hanging out with their friends, all sorts of activities and enjoying themselves, having a good time. Naruto didn't want to be the cause that ruined all of that, but it was then that Letha had whispered in his mind. Academy, courtyard, tree? And that is where Naruto currently stood, right next to that little swing. He understood what Letha was trying to remind him of. He could have had that. What he saw out there in the busy parts of the village, the friends, the family, the fun, everything, he could have had, but it was robbed of him. All for some stupid reason that he had absolutely no control over. However, that was just one thing that really pissed him off. The fourth Hokage sacrificed himself to ensure his safety, along with the safety of the village. All he had asked in return was that his son be treated as the hero that he was for holding back the being that had attacked and destroyed over half the village, the Kyuubi. His mom, Kushina, had stepped in to protect him from being killed by the great beast as well. It was so close that the end of the claw that the Kyuubi used was mere inches from his infant form. If it wasn't for his mother and her chakra chains, he would be dead as well. His parents had sacrificed themselves. For what? He then remembered why he had wanted to take revenge against the village that was his home. They had literally spit on his parents' sacrifice, and then used him as a scapegoat for their pain and suffering that was nothing compared to his own. They were enjoying themselves because of his family's pain and sacrifice. The more he thought about it, the more he wanted to kill. It was then that an Anbu landed on the ground right in front of him and withdrew his sword and pointed it at him and said, "I don't know who you are, but you have one warning only. Come with me peacefully to the Hokage's office, or be treated as a threat to our village." Naruto's green eyes narrowed, and a small amount of green smoke rose from them. He then stepped out of the shadows and the Anbu was shocked at the new form of Naruto. He did not expect the black and white armored form. Still, he was at the ready. "I will comply," Naruto told the Anbu. The Anbu lowered his sword but didn't sheath it, still on guard as he asked, "What are you doing here? Who are you?" Naruto looked over his shoulder at the swing and said sadly, "Just reminiscing." "Who are you?" the Anbu asked forcefully. "Point that piece of crap at me again," Naruto growled, "and I'll kill you slowly." That was a direct threat. The Anbu yelled out, pointing at Naruto. He crouched in a ready stance and was about to charge as another Anbu with long purple hair and a cat mask dropped down next to him and said to him, "Stand down, mouse." The Anbu that had first arrived looked at his superior as he said to her, but he threatened. "I will threaten you on charges of insubordination if you do not follow orders, mouse." Neko said harshly. The man said he would comply. "Return to HQ, we will discuss your failure later, understood?" "Yes, ma'am," Mouse said nervously as he sheathed his sword and shushed away to Anbu headquarters. "I apologize for the rudeness," Neko stated. He is new to Anbu, and is a little frightened. "Although I have to admit, I have never seen anything like you before." "Where are you from?" "Here," Naruto answered, his eyes narrowing again. "What?" Neko said. "I have never seen you here before." "Yes, you have," Naruto said to her. "Alright, if you say so," Neko said, knowing the man if that's what he even was wasn't going to change his story. "Although I cannot allow you to roam here freely, I don't know who you are or a lot of anything. Come with me to the Hokage's office peacefully, and you have my word you will not be harmed." "Let's go," Naruto said simply. He then started walking in the direction of the Hokage's mansion but the Neko said to him, "Wait, where do you think you're going?" "To the mansion," Naruto said simply. "Not like that you're not," Neko said. "Why not?" Naruto asked as he turned around. "It'd be fun, watching them scream and run." Tensing, Neko said to him, "This is your last chance, come with me, the way I want, or like Mouse said before, you will treat it as a threat to the village." "Last one to the Hokage's mansion is one who spat on the Yondaime's dying wish," Naruto said. The large red cape suddenly emerged from his back and enveloped him in a matter of seconds. Once he was completely covered, he was gone. Where the fuck did he go? Neko said, both frightened and confused. And how does he know about the Yondaimi's wish? Neko spoke into the small microphone inside her mask to all of the other Anbu. All Anbu, report to the Hokage's office immediately. Code Orange. I say again, all Anbu, report to the Hokage's office immediately. Code Orange. Neko then suddenly shushed away towards the destination she had just summoned all Black Ops to, hoping and praying that nothing bad had already happened. Tsunade was in her office filling out paperwork and drinking, as usual. She had bags under her eyes, more from depression and sadness than from lack of sleep. For almost a decade, she had been constantly searching for her godson, not once believing that he was truly dead. She was really beginning to lose hope. She held her stamp above another permit request from the Civilian Council as her hand trembled. She looked at her hand, noticing that this had been happening for some time now. She stamped the permit request that had stated that the Civilian Council needed yet another spa house in the village, this time closer to the late Yondaimi's former household. The only reason was because they knew that it was in a relatively nicer area of the village. Not a higher end of the village, but higher than the middle class. Tsunade Senju hated the Civilian Council because they thought that they deserved everything that was good under the sun, no matter who paid for it. She harbored an overwhelmingly amount of hate for the group, since it was them that overrode her vote against searching for her godson. The council had to come to a vote to use valuable resources to search for the missing child that was Naruto Uzumaki 10 years ago. The event had already taken place by the time she had taken place in her office, but she refused to give up. After all, the disappearance or even death of a child of any age in the village was considered a major crime, punishable by immediate death, due to the fact that they carried the future of the village on their shoulders. When she had taken her position, she had discovered that absolutely no one had even began to proceed with protocol in investigating the case. What had literally happened with the disappearance, at least according to Tsunade of Naruto Uzumaki, was the initial event, the report, and the people literally just shrugged and said, too bad for him. This absolutely outraged Tsunade. Even though she was Hokage, she still had limited political powers. Unfortunately for both her and Naruto, he was still technically a civilian at the time of the event, since he did not graduate from the academy. Therefore, main jurisdiction fell into hands of the Civilian Council. Not good. Also, it had been about 2 years since the event after she had taken office when she had tried to reopen the case. Because of this, protocol called for there to be a vote. Between her and the Shinobi Council and the Civilian Council, she had lost by 2 votes, therefore, closing the case once again. She could vividly remember every member of the Civilian Council walking out of the meeting hall with beaming smiles on their faces. It enraged her to no end. Remembering this, the stamp that she currently held in her hand had officially imprinted the red denial on the permit request. She looked at it and pressed the stamp furiously on the paper again, and again, and again, and again. She then furiously stamped the paper with all the frustration and hopelessness she had been feeling the entire time. She screamed with heartfelt pain as she practically slammed the stamp on the paper over and over again. With one last slam, she broke the entire desk and kicked the 2 broken pieces of the wood away from her. She looked at the stamp that said, denial, and it felt almost as if it was mocking her, denying her the very hope that her godson was still alive. She threw the stamp against the wall and watched as it shattered into pieces from the force of the blow. She fell to her knees and cried in her hands as she said softly, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. There was a knocking at her door, surprising the 5th Hokage. She stood up and said, smoothing out her green jacket, enter. Neko and 5 other Anbu ran in and surrounded her, their backs facing her. They all had their swords drawn, ready to defend their leader. What is the meaning of this? Tsunade demanded. There is a possible threat to you or the village, Lady Hokage, Neko said to her while facing the doorway. We are not sure, but we are not taking any chances either. Hiruzen Sarutobi sat on his mat in his house, relaxing while he smoked his tobacco pipe. Blowing the smoke from his mouth, he sighed as he said alertly, I know you're there. Come on out and show yourself. From the darkness, emerged someone he never expected. The 10-year-old boy of Naruto Uzumaki. What? The former Hokage whispered. How can it be? Hello old man, Naruto said to him. It's been a while hasn't it? How are you even alive? Hiruzen asked furiously. Naruto, in the blink of an eye, appeared in front of Hiruzen and grabbed the old man's throat with a grip entirely too strong for a 10-year-old boy and said, "I'm not, asshole." Naruto then threw the old man against the wall behind him. He watched as the elderly man slowly rose to his knees and coughed horrendously. "What's the matter?" Naruto asked him as he walked closer. "Old age finally catching up to you? You are not here," the Sandaime said as he tried to get to his feet. "This is all some nightmare. You are haunting me, aren't you? Now why would I be haunting you?" Naruto asked the elderly man. "You tell me, old man. Why would I be doing that?" "It doesn't matter," the former Hokage stated. He snapped his fingers, expecting his 5 permanent bodyguards to assist him in terminating this form. Whoever he wasn't the 10-year-old victim of a murder that he had tried to cover up. However, his 5 guards never came. He snapped his fingers again and again, but they still never came. "Oh, now I get it," Naruto said. He snapped his own fingers, and suddenly a pillar of flame erupted in the middle of the house. It only burned for a moment before dissipating into a large amount of smoke. In its place were the 5 bodies in which the Sandaime was trying to call upon. He stared on in horror as their bodies were just laying there, lifeless and what appeared to be soulless. "What did you do?" Hiruzen Sarutobi said through grit teeth. "What did I do?" Naruto asked in disbelief. "I didn't do anything, oh great and powerful Sandaime. You did this, a long time ago. You did this when you chose to abandon me for every other worthless pieces of shit in this damn village. You did this when you decided to choose the petty needs of the many instead of helping the one that needed you the most. You did this when you chose to let all of those people out there shun me, attack me, torture me, and every other damn thing you can think of. You did this when you decided to let me die." "Let you die?" Hiruzen screamed back at what he thought was an apparition of the 10-year-old Uzumaki. "I never let you die. Bullshit. You let me die when you allowed them to continue to attack me. You caused my death, Hiruzen Sarutobi. My death, the death of a child, was entirely your fault, and your fault alone." Suddenly, Naruto's image changed as an enormously large red cape unwrapped itself from Naruto. After about a minute, Hiruzen was staring at the newest hell spawn that was once Naruto Uzumaki. "What I am now," Naruto began, staring at the horrified Hiruzen, "is entirely your fault. Because you failed to act, I was a victim of a brutal murder at the hands of your own villagers. The Kyuubi has been released, I have been resurrected, and now I am back to claim my revenge, as well as your soul." Naruto thrust his hand forward and a chain shot forward from his open palm. At the end of the chain was a vicious-looking spearhead. It pierced the elder's shoulder with such force that it knocked him off of the ground and the chain pierced the wall behind him, pinning the old man to it. A part of Naruto's cape wrapped itself around the old man's left arm and slowly began to pull it off as Naruto said, "This is for my father." The left arm was completely ripped off, blood sprayed everywhere in a brilliant shower of red. Hiruzen screamed in agony as tears streamed down his face. Another portion of Naruto's cape covered his mouth, silencing the old man. Another portion of the shroud wrapped itself around Hiruzen's left leg and began to slowly pull. "This is for my mother." In another brilliant shower of red, the old man's left leg was removed. Both left limbs of the elder were now removed. Another portion of the shroud enveloped the right arm and right leg and ripped them both off simultaneously. Hiruzen screamed continuously through the red cape that was covering his mouth, muffling his cries of agony. Naruto rose his hands and a chain emerged from them and they elongated further and further until both chains were at least 10 meters long. At the ends of the chains, there was a skull with 4 smaller hooked blades. The 2 skulls on the chain floated up and looked the third Hokage dead in the eye as if they were staring into the man's soul. Suddenly, they wrapped themselves around and around the limbless body of the Sandaime until only his head was visible, the red shroud still covering his mouth. Spikes sprouted suddenly from every link in the chains, deeply penetrating the man's body. The Sandaime's eyes widened in pain even further if that were possible. Then, the chains retracted incredibly fast back into Naruto's hands. As they retracted, the small spikes and blades that had jutted out of the chains were literally sawing the limbless man apart. Once they were done retreating into their master, the limbless body fell to the ground in multiple sawed and bloody pieces. Only the head remained untouched, its eyes now lifeless and dull, only the red cape still covering his mouth gave it any color. Naruto held out his hand as the red cape seemed to deliver the severed head. Naruto grabbed it with his black and clawed hand and stared into the dead man's eyes and chuckled slightly, saying, "It's funny, seeing the great god of shinobi fall to the hands of a dead child." Naruto threw the head against the wall with such force that it smashed against it, spraying the household with a little more gore and blood. Naruto then walked up to the largest blood puddle and dipped his fingers in it and then went to the wall with the least amount of blood on it and began writing on it, using the blood of the dead Sandaime. When he was finished, Naruto's red shroud enveloped him as he teleported away, leaving no trace of himself. The following evening, Hinata, Ino, and Sakura had met up to go out to dinner after their respective work shifts. They were to meet up at the local bar for a few drinks and dinner. The bar was a relatively new establishment called the Kunai's Inn. Ino and Sakura were waiting out front when they first saw Hinata walking up to the front of the area. Kiba, being the gentleman that he was currently escorting her. "Hinata, Kiba," Ino greeted exuberantly, waving her hand in the air to get their attention. "Over here, Ino," Sakura quietly scolded, "there are other people here, you know. Chill out a little bit." "Oh, we'll be fine," Ino dismissed. "Besides, if they have a problem with us having fun, well, that's on them." "Hey guys," Kiba greeted the two girls waiting on them. "Hey Kiba," Sakura greeted back. "Where's Akamaru?" "He's back at the house resting," Kiba said to the pink-haired Kunoichi. "He wasn't feeling very well today, so my sister, Hana, said she would keep an eye on him today." "Poor guy. I hope he gets better," Hinata said. "Thank you Kiba, from here on it'll just be us girls." "Thank you for escorting me." "Don't worry about it," Kiba waved off. "After what happened the other day, there's no way in hell I'm leaving you out of my sight. Take it easy girls. Call me if you need me." "Bye Kiba." Ino and Sakura waved off. "Let's get inside," Hinata said, "I'm freezing." "Nothing a good drink won't fix up," Ino said excitedly. "Come on." 30 minutes later, all three girls had had their fill of a delicious dinner of salmon and vegetables with a glass of red wine. The Kunai's Inn was currently very busy, with more and more word spread around the village about them. More and more people attended. It was a Friday night, and it was nearly completely full. All ninja know that this is a perfect environment for an under-the-table type of conversation, which Hinata started off. "So, I had this nightmare last night," Hinata said to her two lady friends. "I was back in the Hyuga compound. Already a bad dream. Anyways, I was walking through the compound walls when I heard someone calling my name. I couldn't place it, but it sounded like it was coming from everywhere, and from inside of me at the same time." "That's strange," Sakura said. "Did anything weird happen that day?" "Nothing out of the ordinary," Hinata answered. "That's just the thing though. It's not like I've been terrified of anything as of late, or watched any scary movies or anything. Just a normal day, then I have this nightmare like I'm being haunted. Yeah, that's the best way to describe it, like I was being haunted by something." Ino, now jumping into her ninja mode, as she liked to call it, said to her, "It is most likely a side effect from the traumatic experience that you had recently," she stated. "It's actually quite common for people, especially women, to suffer from things like nightmares or sudden nervousness after something like that. When that guy was about to attack you, or God forbid rape you, that was already terrible. Then on top of it the fact that that other person came, whoever he was, came and saved you and all was good, but just looked, according to you, like a demon in clothing or something. Right? Is that how you described it?" "Yeah," Hinata said to her blonde friend, "but now that I think about it, he looked more like the Grim Reaper or something, just a little more, I don't know, modern I guess. He was scary though. But what sacred me more than anything was that he said absolutely everything that pertained to Naruto's death," Sakura said sadly, "which only you and a few others knew the full details about, right?" "Yes," Hinata said, "and that's exactly why I'm so terrified, and yet, I guess I'm hopeful at the same time. I mean, he was just a kid when he died. I guess if I knew that it was him, that I would be so grateful and would, oh I don't know what I'm saying anymore." Hinata began rubbing her temples as Sakura put a comforting hand on her shoulder and said to her, "Hey, relax Hinata. We were all affected by his death, remember? Or at least, all of us anyway." "Yeah, really," Ino agreed. "I really miss him." "Me too," Hinata said. "Tell you what," Ino said excitedly. "How about we all go out and look for this guy?" I think you've probably had enough to drink now, Ino," Sakura said to her clearly crazy childhood friend. "No, I'm dead serious." Ino declared. I am so sick of all of this. What if, and, I hope, and, it's not fair. How about we go out and actually do something about it? Okay, I'm down, Sakura said. She looked around and said, this place is way too crowded for me anyway. If you two are going, Hinata said to them, then I guess I'll go too. Excellent, Ino cheered. The bill's on me this time. Afterwards, let's go Naruto ghost hunting. Ha 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 ha, that sounds so ridiculous, Hinata said to her friends. Yeah, but it sounds fun, huh? Ino said mischievously. 20 minutes later, the three girls were walking down the streets of Konoha late at night. They continuously talked about anything and everything, forgetting along the way what they had even gone out to do in the first place. After having a filling dinner and a few drinks, why wouldn't they? They turned down one street that was almost devoid of life altogether. The street along the academy. It was late at night, and there were no kids around at all. Ino looked around the area and stopped in the street as she saw the empty courtyard in the school area, specifically at the empty swing on the tree. She stopped in the middle of the road as she stopped dead in her tracks. Memories of the blonde-haired boy hitting her mind like a Mack truck. Sakura noticed that their blonde-haired friend had stopped and looked back and said to her, "What's wrong, Ino?" "It was there," Ino said to no one in particular. "There, on that swing. That was the first time I had ever seen him. I didn't even pay any attention to him. Geez, he looked so pathetic on that day. He looked so down in the dumps it was just depressing. And I never even paid any attention to him at all. If I could change that, I would. Then start now." All three girls turned around in a flash and saw nothing. "Okay, please tell me I was not the only one who just heard that right now," Ino said. "No, I heard it too," Hinata said. "Yeah," replied Sakura, "that was definitely real." The reveal. Ino, Sakura, and Hinata all turned around in a flash. "Okay," Ino said, "please tell me, I'm not the only one who heard that." "No," Sakura said to her in return. "I definitely heard that." "Yeah," Hinata said to them both. "That was real. That sounded like Naruto though. Except, older, I think." "Hinata," Sakura said, now in her kunoichi mode, "use your Byakugan and scan the area. Ino, you and I will get ready to attack the target." "Understood," Hinata replied. Ino nodded and moved her skirt to the side to reveal her kunai pouch that was on her leg and retrieved two of the sharp weapons. She then tossed one of them to her pink-haired best friend and took up a frontal position in front of the Hyuga princess as she was prepared to guide them using her ability. Hinata brought up her hands together and channeled her chakra into her eyes as she announced, "Byakugan." Hinata scanned the entire area. The only things that she could see, aside from themselves of course, was just the surrounding areas. There was absolutely no one else. Her eyebrows furrowed in confusion. "I don't understand," Hinata said to her friends, "I don't see anything at all. It's just us and everything else that's here. There's no one else. Who just said that to us?" "That would be me," a voice said from the academy courtyard. Again, the three women turned around very quickly and actually saw a silhouette sitting on the small swing hanging from the tree. Sakura and Ino both readied their weapons, prepared to strike if need be. Hinata joined her two friends side by side and dropped to her gentle fist stance. "Show yourself," Ino declared. "If you do not, we will attack with deadly force." "You can't kill me," the voice of the black silhouette said to them. "What are you talking about? Why not?" Sakura interrogated. They saw the figure in the darkness stand up and turn to face them. Still in the cover of darkness, the figure said to them, "Because I'm already dead." Ino narrowed her eyes and said calmly but very firmly, "Show yourself, now. All we ask for is your cooperation." "Very well," the silhouette stated. The black figure moved slowly towards them. The three women tensed, ready for a fight. What they saw shocked them completely. "Naruto?" all three women asked in unison. Naruto stepped out from the shadows and onto the street near them. He currently had shorter blonde hair that was of course, still spiked, held up with his black leaf headband. He also wore a black button-up shirt and orange pants, complete with his black shinobi sandals. His look in Naruto, the last. "How are you guys?" Naruto waved at them, using his bright smile. "What the?" Sakura stammered. "How are you even alive?" Ino asked him incredulously. They all see Naruto grimace as he said darkly, "I'm not." Ino's eyes widened as she said, "So, are you like a ghost?" Sakura and Hinata both looked at him in earnest, eager to know the answer to this whole new strange situation. Of sorts, Naruto shrugged. I'm here physically, but this isn't my real form right now. He held up a hand and stared at it sadly and said to them, this is what I would have looked like if I hadn't been killed. I wonder what I missed out on. So you were killed, Ino said angrily. I knew it. There was no way you would have just disappeared like that. Who killed you, Naruto? We need to bring the killer to justice. Sakura agreed. Whoever did it has gotten away with it this whole time. His days are numbered. Girls, Hinata put in. His death report stated that the damage done to him wasn't done by a single person, but more of a group, as if he was ambushed or something. That's actually closer to the truth than you think, Naruto said to them. Ino looked at him and said to him, Naruto, who killed you? It was a collaboration of people, Naruto answered her. It started with some of the higher-ups, and trickled down to where some of the villagers and a few chunin were the ones to actually carry out the act itself. The third Hokage was the one who was ultimately responsible for it due to his lack of doing, well, anything, really. That, and he purposefully kept my true heritage from me, which literally could have changed my life in every way imaginable. But, thanks to his lack of giving a shit, I was killed for something completely out of my control. What do you mean? Ino asked Naruto. Well, since I'm really dead now, I guess there's no point in not telling you. Do you guys remember how back in the academy, we were told that the Yondaime killed the Kyuubi all those years ago, sacrificing his life in the process? Sakura, being the book smarts of the group, nodded her head and said, yes, it was one of the most important lessons in our entire class period. And a good one too, Ino said to her best friend. It really taught us what a person could really do if pressed. And it was also a bold-faced lie, Naruto told them. They looked at him shocked as he told them, it was the closest thing to the truth, but yet completely wrong. And I paid the price for it. What are you talking about, Naruto? Hinata asked him. Yeah, what price are you talking about? What happened? Naruto sadly looked at the swing and asked them, do you ladies know what a Jinchuriki is? No, Ino said. Why? I know, Sakura said. A Jinchuriki is someone who has had a huge source of power sealed inside of them, namely a Biju. It's also known as a human sacrifice. Why? I asked you because that's what I am. Or, was. Naruto said. What do you mean? Hinata asked him. The nine-tailed fox wasn't killed, Naruto began. It's pure chakra only with a physical form. You can't kill chakra. But, you can seal it away. Sakura's eyes widened as realization came to her. Kyuubi's so-called death? You're a Jinchuriki? Are you telling me that the nine tails was sealed inside of you, Naruto? Naruto smiled sadly and said, that's exactly right, Sakura. Last I saw you, we were still in the academy. You always were the brains of the class. Wait a minute, Ino said to Naruto. Are you telling me that all of that bullshit you went through was because you had the Kyuubi inside of you? Seriously. Unfortunately, yes, Naruto confirmed. From what the Shinigami told me. The Shinigami? Hinata said with wide eyes. Yes, Naruto said. From what he told me, the villagers had apparently believed that I was the Kyuubi reincarnate. They used that belief as an excuse to do anything and everything to me. I didn't even realize why my life was the way it was until it was too damn late. His eyes then narrowed dangerously as he said, my entire life was ruined and cut short because of them, and also because of the civilian council of this damn village, and the third Hokage. Naruto smirked evilly as he said, I don't need to worry about the Sandaime now, though. He's already been dealt with. Dealt with? What do you mean, Naruto? Ino asked her crush. The Sandaime is dead, Naruto said, not bothering to beat around the bush. He was the main one responsible for my treatment and ultimately my young and unnecessary death. I paid him what he was owed for that. Anyways, I have shown myself because I have a message for you three. You killed the third Hokage? Sakura said, stunned. You shouldn't have done that. How could you? What would you have done, Sakura Haruno? Naruto said in a dark fury. His eyes glowed green and a green mist began to rise from them. You, Sakura, Ino, and Hinata, have been raised and lived with the absolute best of almost everything. Sure, you may have had some hard times here and there, but you always generally had it pretty damn good. You don't even know what I really look like right now. What I have become. What are you talking about? Sakura said nervously. She couldn't really see it, but she as well as the other two women present could literally feel the enormous amount of raw power rolling off of him. I'm talking about the fact that this is not even what I really look like. This isn't my true form anymore, Naruto said. Remember, I told you three in the beginning that this is something that I would have looked like if I hadn't been killed. But I was, remember? Suddenly, black plate-like spikes once again protruded all over from his body and began covering it. The spawned cemetery scene all over again. After the black armor covered his face and his eyes glowed eerily in the dark night, his enormous red shroud sprouted from his back like a parachute and surrounded all four of them. Chains sprouted out from his hands and his chest and they surrounded the three women both protectively but also seemingly threateningly. The ends of the chains had the skulls with the four blades each on them and they would occasionally snap at the women, showing them they would attack if need be. What are you? Ino asked, afraid. I am a hellspawn now, Ino, Naruto answered her. You do not need to be afraid, you are not guilty of any unforgivable crimes. You, as well as you two, are safe. I have a message for you three. Spread the word. The demon is back for vengeance. The giant red shroud and the chains retracted, leaving only Naruto in his hellspawn form. His eyes continued to glow in the darkened night. He turned to leave and Ino shouted, wait. Naruto turned back around to face them and said, what is it? Ino ran up to him and stopped just a few inches from him. She was just short of him, making her have to look slightly up into his green eyes of his black and white armor. She placed both hands on his chest. She was surprised to feel that he felt warm. It looked really cold and slightly wet, but it was warm and just a little shiny. She felt safe. I want to say that I'm sorry, Naruto, she said to him. I'm sorry for not being there for you before. I'm sorry for not really paying any attention to you, when you apparently needed it the most. I'm sorry for not being your friend when that's all you really needed. I'm sorry you had to suffer the way you had to. At the end, she was practically crying. She placed her forehead on his chest as her shoulders sagged and shuddered. Naruto wrapped his arms around her and pulled her close. Ino was surprised at this, but didn't stop him. In fact, she wrapped her own arms around his armored waist and tried to pull him closer to her. Ino looked up and placed on hand on his armored face and said to him, Naruto, I'm so sorry. Please, help me make it up to you. You've already begun to do so, Naruto told her. You have shown me that you are remorseful of your actions, or lack of such actions. You have shown me that you wish you would have acted before. I am very forgiving, Ino-chan, but I need a reason to be. You've given me that reason. His shroud once again sprouted out, but then it enveloped him completely. His form began to move and adjust, and then the shroud was removed and retracted once again. When it had removed itself, it was revealed that Naruto was once again in his human form that he had showed them earlier. Don't worry about anything, Ino-chan, you are safe. I promise to protect you. And Hinata and Sakura, too. Naruto? Ino said admiringly. She placed her hand on his face again and pulled him into a kiss. The kiss was deep and long, she wanted to make the feeling and the moment last as long as possible. She pushed her tongue into his mouth as she began to actively make out with her longtime crush. She tried once again to pull him in as close as possible. Naruto pulled her away and said to her, Ino, where did that come from? I've wanted to do that for so long, Ino said to him. I decided that if I had one wish, I would have you return and kiss you. I've felt like this for so long, I wasn't about to let it go. Naruto smiled and said to her, then don't let it go. Ever. I want, Ino said to him. She pulled him into another heated kiss. Ahem, Sakura coughed, trying to get their attention. I'm sorry to ruin this lovey moment or whatever, but Ino, you're making out with a ghost. What? Ino said. You can obviously see that he is clearly here. I'm making out with the man of my dreams. And here you are, saying that it's not real. What the fuck? Ino, Sakura said to her. We were just drinking a lot, remember? I know about your dreams, you've told them to me so many damn times I'm tired of it. But I think I drank too much too, there's no way the dead can come back to life. I understand, Sakura, Naruto told her. 10 years, and a dead man for that long suddenly returns. I know it's hard to believe. You'll come around, but for now, Ino, would you like to come with me? I've wanted to be with you for the past 10 years, Ino said to her crush that she couldn't believe that was right in front of her. What the hell do you think? Ha ha ha, I guess you have a point, that was a stupid question, Naruto pointed out. He looked at Sakura and Hinata and told them, come here and take my hand. Hinata didn't hesitate to do so. She was ecstatic that her idol was back. Sakura, on the other hand, didn't know if this was all real or not. Her body froze up on her. Let's go, Sakura, Hinata told her pink-haired friend. He's not going to hurt us. I must be dreaming, Sakura muttered. There's no way the dead can return to life. She looked directly at Naruto with tears in her eyes as she said passionately and yet disappointedly, there's just no way. Naruto looked at her sadly and told her, I understand, and technically, I'm not. He could tell that neither of them really understood and so went on to explain. Think of it this way. When a living person lives, their soul exists within that body, correct? All three women nodded their heads. Okay, so you understand that. Now, what happens if that person dies? Their souls either go to heaven, hell, or they sometimes wander the earth, waiting to cross over still, Sakura said, her book smarts kicking in again. Correct, Naruto told her. Now, if you take an empty shell of any kind, and recapture that soul and then put it back in that formerly empty shell, the soul now has another body to use. It may not be its original body, but it's a body nonetheless. Do you understand now? So, Sakura began, are you telling us that your soul is inside that black thing? That black suit? That's right, Sakura, Naruto said. More specifically, Letha, of the 7th house of K, which is actually from hell. The Shinigami bonded Letha and I together. Letha and I share a symbiotic relationship. She exists on Earth, and I, for lack of a better term, am resurrected. So, I'm alive, and yet I'm not. I am controlling this body, but it's not mine, originally. My real body is still in the ground. Or whatever the fuck happened to it. The point is, I'm here now. And I really want to kill those responsible for ruining my life. I'm sorry Naruto, for doubting you, Sakura said to him. She walked up and took his hand in her own. Don't worry about it, Naruto said. I'm going to take you all home now. Hold on tight. Hinata and Sakura each had on of his hands and Ino still had her hands wrapped around his waist. His red shroud once again emerged and enveloped all four of them and gave the appearance of it spinning quickly. Then, from the bottom, they began to disappear. After about a minute, they were completely gone. A few seconds later after they had disappeared, the shroud unraveled itself to reveal that they were in fact on top of the Haruno residence. Sakura was shocked as she said to him, that was incredible. You're welcome, Sakura-chan, Naruto told her. Remember, spread the word. This village is too damn corrupted for its own good. It's time someone came in and cleaned it up. I agree wholeheartedly, Sakura said to him. She waved to him as she said, Naruto. It really is good seeing you again. It's good to see you too Sakura-chan, Naruto said with a smile. Hinata and Ino waved as the red shroud from hell enveloped them and disappeared again. Oh Naruto, Sakura said sadly, what have you become? What have we done? Killing an innocent child? Konoha is no longer my home. Before I do anything else, though, I need to sleep off the alcohol. She went to the door on the roof leading to the stairs that would go to her apartment to sleep the rest of the night off. She couldn't quite pinpoint it, but she had to admit that she definitely felt more at peace now. On top of the Hyuga residence was their next stop. The red shroud unraveled once more, and dropped off the Hyuga princess. Hinata gave him an extremely large hug and a tearful goodbye before she jumped off the roof onto the ground next to her own room. Knowing the ability belonging to the Hyuga clan, Naruto and Ino once again quickly teleported via his red shroud. They arrived this time at the top of the Hokage mountain. I thought you were taking me home? Ino said to her crush. I will, Naruto said, but I wanted to show you something first. See the village how it is now? He gestured to all of the lights and buildings, referring to the upgrades and more technological advances the village had geared towards over the past decade. Ino nodded her head as she said to him, Yays, it has made everyone's lives much more comfortable as a result. That may be true, Naruto said to her, but it has also made them incredibly complacent. Have you got any idea how many Junin I have walked by in a henge? I was never once caught. I even walked by a few Anbu and was never caught. I've stood, invisible, in front of 3 Anbu for an hour, dancing like an idiot, just to tempt them to have a fight. Why would you do such a thing? Ino asked, shocked. To release anger, of course, Naruto said to her. You try to remember all the things that I've been through and try to hold all of that anger and hatred in. At some point, you're gonna want to release it all. I get it, Ino said sadly. My point, Ino, the reason I'm showing you this, Naruto said to her, is because I'm going to change it all. I'm going to have a revolution, make it to where it's both peaceful, and I get my revenge. A village that will allow the death of a child is not a ninja village. It's a hold-up for countless amounts of cowardice. I want you to help me. Why would I help you destroy my home? Ino asked, confused. Naruto turned back to her slowly, his armor sprouting back out and covering him in his black and white armor once again. When he fully turned to her, his red shroud emerged completely as it flowed around the both of them in a threatening and also protective manner. Why? Naruto said to her. Can you truly sit there and tell me that you felt like you were at home? Or were you in a village? Ino realized his point and said, you're right. I have felt like it's just a village. But still, I can't help you destroy it. I understand, Naruto told her. Then, just know that when the time comes, you will be safe from my wrath. You are on my side, and that's a feeling that do not take lightly. Thank you Ino, thank you very much. The head portion of his black armor retracted to reveal his human-formed head. He reached out to her with his armored hand. She took it, and he brought her in close and gave her a very affectionate kiss. When he released her, she looked at her dreamy expression as he said, you always were a lovesick puppy, Ino-chan. For good reason, she retorted. I love you, Naruto. You love me? Naruto asked her. Like this? Like anything, she said to him. As long as it's you, I really don't give a damn. Now, I've been waiting for far too long. Change into your human form, and come with me. Doing as she asked, he asked her, where are we going? Ino looked back over her shoulder with a very flirtatious look and told him, to a very special place. It's called my bedroom. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. But then he smiled predatorily and said to her, well then, lead the way my dear. She grabbed his wrist and said, it's about damn time. Let's go. A couple of hours later, Naruto turned over in Ino Yamanaka's bed. He and the Mind Walker were hot and sweaty from a very passionate love-making session. Ino had just shown him how much she had really missed him in the past decade in the previous 2 hours or so. He was lying on his back as she was cuddled up against him and was softly rubbing his chest with a couple of her delicate fingers. She looked up at him from her side and said to him, I love you Naruto. I've been wanting to say that for so long. Naruto looked at her and smiled at her. I love you too, Ino. He then sat up on his elbows and looked at her dead in the eye and said, Ino, thank you. Ino, slightly confused, sat up as well and responded with, for what darling? You're the only one that has ever shown me any kind of affection, Naruto said to her. That was incredibly important to me. I only wish that I could have received it much sooner. Ino looked down, her cheeks turning a little red in embarrassment. Well, better late than never, right? Naruto chuckled a little bit and grabbed her hand, saying, definitely. Naruto then began to feel a little weird, like he was heating up, and fast. He felt it originate from his core and spread outwards. He looked at his hand that was covering Ino's and noticed that his fingers began to slightly elongate into claws. It was transforming back into his new self. Slowly, but surely. Damn it, Naruto said aloud. He got up from the bed and tried to get away from Ino without hurting her. What's wrong baby? Ino asked, concerned for the man of her dreams. I'm transforming back into that black armored form you saw the other night, he said to her. I was told that if I didn't change back into this form of my own will that it would happen automatically after a period of time. Looks like I waited too long. What's going on with you though? Ino asked, not sure what was going to happen to him. She had lost him for 10 years, she didn't want to lose him again. Possibly for good this time. I've got no idea, he said back to her. That was when the black armored plates burst out of his skin again. Naruto fell to his knees in agony as the armored plates once again began to cover his body. After about a minute or so, the transformation was again complete. Naruto looked up at her, his green eyes dead set on her. He could see that Ino was a little shaken, even though she had already seen this transformation before. Sorry you had to see that again, Naruto said to her out of breath. Fuck, that hurts. Wait, so that's it? Ino asked quietly. You're not gonna die? Or anything, you know, because you waited too long? I guess not, Naruto said to her. Ino sighed in relief. She got off of the bed and walked over to him and knelt down on the floor and hugged him. She didn't care that she was nude and he was in his hellspawn form, she just wanted to be close to her man. Please, Ino said quietly, please don't leave me again, Naruto. Naruto hugged her back. His hard black armor made her jump a little as he made contact and said to her, "I'll do my best." Ino leaned back, her long and loose blonde hair slightly covering her firm butt and pooling on the floor. She smiled at him and said to him in a serious tone, "Now, on to business. Let's go get those fuckers who put you in this state in the first place." "Who's your next target?" "A few of the villagers," Naruto responded. "On the night of my murder, I recognized a fruit merchant. You know, the fat one that always was on that main market street, with the really high prices?" "Oh, you mean Mr. Fingu?" Ino said to him. "The one with huge belly that always stuck out why too much?" "Wait a second, high prices? His stuff was always cheaper than everyone else's." "Yeah, that fucker, he must have inflated his prices exclusively for me," Naruto said. "Do you have any idea how malnourished I was because I couldn't get my fruits and vegetables that I needed? All because I couldn't afford them? Bullshit. I swear, everyone was out to get me in some way. That night, he cut my stomach with his knives. That son of a bitch, it hurt so much." Naruto began to tremble uncontrollably. Ino thought he might have been crying, but when she leaned in and listened closely, she could clearly tell that he was shaking with unbridled rage. He was growling under his breath. She then saw thick and very dangerous-looking spikes protrude from his shoulders, elbows, and kneecaps, like they were some sort of decorative armor pieces. He stood up slowly and asked the girl he had just recently mated with and said to her, "Is he still at that same stand as before? Or did he move?" He moved," Ino said, slightly shaken up. She had never seen anything like this before. Since all of the technological enhancements the village has had, he's gone from a little market stand to an actual store. He's in the same area though. It's called Fingu's Fruits. Hellspawn. Naruto nodded as he said, "Understood. Time to go spill some more blood." He turned to leave, but she called out to him as she stood up. "Wait, Naruto." He stopped and looked back at her. "Yeah, Ino?" She began getting dressed and said to him, "Hold up a second, okay? I'm coming with you." Although Ino couldn't see it, Naruto smiled under his Hellspawn armor and said to her, "Good. How do you want to do this? Stealth or onslaught? You really want to just go in there guns blazing?" Ino asked. "I would love to spill some blood and cause some chaos," Naruto said seriously. "Trust me, I get it," Ino said to him, "but, remember, you are in a village full of ninjas. Attacking a civilian would bring the Anbu and the Hokage herself down upon you. You really don't want that." "Why not?" Naruto asked her. "As far as I know, Lady Hokage has been searching for me for a long time. Why not give her what she's been searching for?" "Naruto, that's not. I want blood, Ino," Naruto said vehemently. Green mist rose from his eyes as the spikes seemed to look even more intimidating. "They murdered me, Ino. I will have their blood in return, and send their souls to the Shinigami." "Naruto," Ino said passionately. She walked up and placed her hands on his chest as she said to him, "You can't cause any chaos. You'll send the entire village into a panic." "I'll think about," Naruto promised her. "But no guarantees. They killed me in cold blood. I will not let that go." "I don't want you to, either," Ino agreed. "But I don't want you to send the entire village into the abyss as a result." "I never said I would," Naruto said to her. "Only the ones who are guilty and evil will be cast into the abyss. I might be vengeful, but I'm not vindictive." "Okay," Ino said, letting go of him. "I'll go meet up with Sakura and Hinata. Let them know that I'm okay and that you're still with us." "Do you mean to let them know that it really was real?" Naruto teased. Ino's cheeks turned red from being found out as she said, "That too." "I love you, Ino," Naruto said. His red shroud emerged and immediately enveloped him completely, then vanished. "I love you too, Naruto," Ino said to the air. "Thank you, and come back soon." The large fruit and produce seller, Mr. Fingu, said to the latest customer that had just walked out his front door of his establishment. He opened the register and grabbed several hundred ryo from it and put it in his pocket, chuckling to himself. He laughed to himself. "Overprice your items in the store and keep the extra profit for yourself. The tax company doesn't know about it either. Brilliant plan, me, absolutely brilliant. Ha 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 ha." Ino Yamanaka walked into the store next and said to him, "Good afternoon, Mr. Fingu. How are you today?" "Ah, well, if isn't my favorite customer," Mr. Fingu said perversely. "It's always a good day to see you, my dear. Tell me, How can a lonely old man such as myself help you out today, young lady? Ino blushed a little and said to him, "Stop it, Mr. Fingu. You're making me blush over here." Ah ha 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 ha. The produce owner laughed uproariously. "I'm just teasing you, my dear. Now, on to business. How can I help you?" "Well, I was wondering if you had any of those cucumbers left," she said a little slowly. "I mean, I need something long and hard." She looked over her shoulder and said, "You wouldn't happen to have one of those, would you?" "You, Mr. Fingu said dumbly. "You, need a cucumber, you said?" "Yes," Ino said with half-lidded eyes. She turned back around and bent over at a 90-degree angle to look at one of the lower shelves. The produce clerk could just barely make out the black thong the well-developed blonde was wearing. He was sweating a little at this point, the suspense and anticipation getting to him. He stepped around the counter and slowly walked towards her bent frame and said to her from behind, I might have something a little better for you, if you're interested." Ino stood up and turned around and said to him with a sultry smirk, "Lock the door, Mr. Fingu." For an incredibly big man, Mr. Fingu moved very quickly. Turning back around, he saw that Ino had removed her top, but still was holding it in front of her chest, covering her well-endowed form. "Come here, big boy," Ino said seductively. Mr. Fingu nodded dumbly and walked to her like a robot. When he stopped right in front of her, she started to circle around him slowly. During the time that she had circled him, she had been tracing her delicate finger all across his fat chest and back, saying to him, "You have been around for years. Been helping everyone out for years. Except for one person though, what was his name again?" "Who are you talking about, my dear?" Mr. Fingu asked her. "I don't remember not helping anyone. Is your age catching up to you?" Ino asked, stopping in front of him. "No, I always helped everyone." "Naruto Uzumaki," Ino said seriously. The produce shop owner's eyes widened. He hadn't heard that name in about 10 years. He then began to sweat as he thought maybe Ino had discovered his involvement in the kid's murder. "Oh, the kid? What about him? He died what, like, 8 years ago, was it?" "I can't remember." "No, it was 10 years ago," Mr. Fingu said. "Oh yeah, that's right," Ino said, snapping her fingers. "You, what else I found out?" What's that?" Mr. Fingu said, really sweating at this point. His incredibly fat body couldn't handle the stress. "That you, Mr. Fingu, sold him my favorite strawberries. How could you?" Ino said in mock anger. "You know those were my favorite. And I haven't seen them here since." "Oh, I'm sorry, my dear," Mr. Fingu said, trying to wipe the sweat off of his forehead and stuttering a lot. I'll order some for you right away. They're just, extremely expensive." "Ha ha ha ha, you pathetic bastard," Ino said to him, which caused him to stop in mid-movement. "You never had strawberries. And, I'm allergic to them." Using her free hand, she grabbed the tub Olard's throat and squeezed very tightly. Then, she lifted him off of the ground to where his feet were almost a foot off of the ground. What are you doing?" The fat man gasped. "You're a woman? You shoutlet bth, this strong?" "Whoever said I was a woman, dumb fuck?" Ino said to him. Mr. Fingu narrowed his eyes in confusion. That was when he saw her eyes turn solid green. The purple top, skirt, heels, and long blonde hair turned red and moved about wildly, transforming the woman into what looked like a man. The man then threw the store owner against one of his shelves, knocking it down with such tremendous force that it created a domino effect and knocked down another 5 or 6 shelves, making messes everywhere. Mr. Fingu looked up slightly dazed and saw what looked like an older version of the young boy he had helped kill a decade ago, wearing a red cape with a collar of it surrounding his head and neck. The large red cape was a blood red in color and had an uncountable amount of holes, burns, and rips in it. The man, or the boy, he couldn't tell, was looking straight at him. As recognition and certainty dawned upon the very large man, he pointed up and said to Naruto, You can't be alive. We killed you. You died in that alleyway. I watched as they buried your body. I wanted to make sure you were dead. How are you alive?" Naruto walked forward to the man, saying, "I'm not alive, thanks to you and the others. I was revived, for lack of a better term, by the Shinigami himself. In return, I sent a total of 100 souls to him." Naruto reached him and grabbed the fat man's shirt. As he was bringing him slowly up close, The fat man watched as the black armored plates covered the deceased man. When he was face to face, the obese man was staring at a pair of green, misty eyes and a black armored face with a white plated design on his face. "You will pay for what you did to me that night 10 years ago, you fat son of a bitch. You carved me up like a damn turkey. You were a butcher before, weren't you? You cut me up with precision and accuracy, nothing that a full-time vegetable sap like you would know." I was one, a long time ago," Mr. Fingu said, whimpering. Please, have mercy, sir." Hellspawn Naruto threw his head back and laughed long and hard. To the fat man, it seemed like thunder echoing throughout the store. When the Hellspawn looked back at the owner, he said, "Mercy? You want me, a 10-year-old boy that you murdered in cold blood, to show you mercy?" The fat man nervously nodded. Hellspawn Naruto held out one arm, and a black blade began to slowly emerge from it, like Baraka from MK. He then held the self-created blade up to the fat man's face and said to him, "You literally took everything from me. Every damn thing that I could have had, or ever would have, was stolen from you and the others. I wasn't the nine-tailed fox, you dumbass. The fourth Hokage sealed it into me. You know something else? The fourth Hokage, and Kushina Uzumaki, the red-hot habanero? They were my parents." The store owner's eyes widened like saucers and said, "You lie. I only told you the truth to see you realize that you killed your village's hero's child," Naruto said to the man. "How does it feel to know that you betrayed your hero? How does it feel to kill a child? Either way, I really don't give a damn." Why not? Mr. Fingu asked. "Because," Naruto began, "every action, everything you do, has a price that needs to be paid." Hellspawn Naruto set the fat man down back on his feet and turned him to the side and said, "And it's time to pay up." In one swift motion, Hellspawn Naruto swung his self-created blade and sliced off the fat man's entire stomach. The fat man's head threw back with an eardrum-busting and pain-filled scream as blood and a few guts fell from the massive and fatal wound. He fell to his knees and tried to put his intestines back inside, but they kept sliding out of his hands. He looked at the Hellspawn and said, "SSSSSEEE, why you in heal?" "No you won't," Naruto said to him. "I've already been there. The place you're going? The dinner table. And the Shinigami absolutely loves the souls of the corrupted. He says that they scream longer when he eats them." Mr. Fingu's eyes widened in fear before they rolled back into his head. His fat body fell back onto the ground, shaking a few of the nearby items. Blood was filling the area very quickly. Naruto's blade retracted and his shroud was flowing around the area. He then disappeared as his shroud enveloped him once more, leaving a murder scene that would make even the most hardened of ninja veterans hurl. Witness. It was a new day in the Leaf Village. In the Hokage mansion, Tsunade was at her desk once again, doing her favorite pastime activity. She was enjoying her fourth cup of fine sake when a Junin ran into her office without even bothering to knock on the door. "Lady Hokage," the Junin yelled out. Tsunade stood up quickly and yelled out, "What the hell is going on, Junin?" Tsunade yelled out. The Junin bent over, wheezing and trying to catch his breath. After a few seconds, he stood up and said to his leader, "Lady Hokage, a few Junin and myself have discovered 2 murders." "Murders?" Tsunade asked. "Hi, Lady Hokage. Who were the victims? Have you determined their identities yet?" "Yes, Lady Hokage. They were the store owner, Mr. Fingu, and the Sandame, Lady Hokage." "What?" Tsunade said in disbelief. "Is anyone else there?" "Hi Lady Tsunade," the Junin responded. "My team and a few Chunin are." "Stop right there," Tsunade announced out loud. She snapped her fingers and 4 Anbu appeared in front of her. "I need you 4 to stop the Leaf Ninja from searching those murder scenes," Tsunade said to them. "There could be extremely important information regarding the situations. Stop them immediately and let no one else there until I arrive." "Hi." The 4 Anbu responded simultaneously. The vanished via Shunshin. She turned to the Junin and said to him, "Here is your new assignment. Quarantine off the areas. If they are not there to help with the investigation or direct family members, they are not allowed." "Understood?" "Yes, Lady Hokage," the Junin said. He bowed and left the room in a hurry. Tsunade sat back down and picked her almost empty cup of sake and looked in the cup. Losing her thoughts for a moment, thinking of the death of the Sandame, she couldn't help but smirk to herself. "So, someone finally decided to do you in," Huh? She said to herself. Serves you right, you child-killing bastard. She raised her glass slightly and said to no one in particular, cheers, to the one who finally put an official end to a corrupted old man. Thank you for killing off that old bastard. She drank the last gulp of the delicious liquid and savored the slightly burning feeling going down her throat. She closed her eyes and basked in the feeling of the warmth. When it had subsided, she stood up and donned her green jacket and said to herself, time to go to work. She left the office, ready to go study the murder scene of a fat villager and a corrupted old man. 4 hours later, Tsunade sat at her desk with several photos of the 2 murder scenes laid out in front of her. For a seasoned veteran, the Hokage, and even one of the 3 legendary Sannin, the scenes almost made her lose her lunch. She had seen many death scenes before with no problem, but whoever had killed the 2 men clearly wanted them to feel the utmost pain possible before they met their end. It was brutality at its finest. Or worst. However, the one thing that she couldn't stop thinking about at both scenes was that a message was written on the walls with the Sandane's death scene, the words in blood spelled out. The demon has returned. She picked up the other photo, the murder scene of the, well, former fat store owner, and looked at the writing on that wall as well that said, Demon's Vengeance. This man was a child killer. And he was only one of many. The rest shall soon follow. Tsunade felt a very familiar feeling originate from her gut. She felt a sort of pull to these messages. Not as a victim, but as someone who was maybe destined to meet the person who wrote the messages. Something about the demon words that were written seemed to have a deeper meaning, but whether or not everyone else would figure it out, she couldn't tell. She then realized something very important. She stood up really fast, knocking over her now empty sake cup. Impossible. Is it really him? She began to write down several notes of the 2 scenes and tried to connect any similarities between the 2. A few things that she pointed out was that first of all there was absolutely no prints, DNA, or anything else at all regarding the killer, as if it were a ghost that had killed the 2 men. Also, both scenes mentioned a demon. Only one person in the history of the village was commonly referred to as such a thing. And the other one, the death scene of Mr. Fingu, had the phrase, child killer, written on the wall, and in the same manner as the other writing in the Sandane's home. Whoever killed these 2 people were not working with anyone, they were alone. I don't believe it, Tsunade said, sitting down heavily in her seat. It has to be you. Sakura was walking up to her master's office. She had been summoned earlier, being told that the Hokage needed to speak with her about something very important. It wasn't a very busy day at all at the hospital, thank goodness, so she had been able to leave for the rest of the day with no trouble. She just had to be on call for the remainder of the night as recompense. Agreeing, she left 4 hours early. It was an incredible day outside, sunny, warm, birds chirping in the air, not too loud, and people were smiling and going about their business. It was a day that was absolutely perfect to have fun or just to kick back and relax. Then why did she feel so uneasy? There was this pit feeling deep in her gut. She couldn't shake it off, no matter what she tried to think about. Thinking she might have been in some serious trouble, she prepared to meet her master for a rather lengthy tongue lashing. However, she couldn't have done anything wrong. She was the best one at the hospital, aside from Ino and Lady Tsunade, of course. So what the hell was going on? Deciding to just deal with it, she forced a smile as she walked past the guards of the Hokage Tower. After a few minutes, she stood in front of the door of her leader's office. Knocking a few times, she was awarded with the beautiful voice of the 3rd legendary Sannin. Enter. Sakura opened the door to the office and walked in with a smile, hoping for the best that nothing was wrong. Her observation, unfortunately, clearly told her different. The countenance of the 5th Hokage was not a pretty sight at this time. Bags underneath her eyes, slightly wrinkled forehead from stress, and sagging shoulders, a clear sign from exhaustion and fatigue. Oh my goodness, Sakura said, surprised. Are you okay, Lady Tsunade? Tsunade looked up at her apprentice and smiled a little as she said to her, yeah, everything's fine, Sakura. Why? Sakura walked up to her and said, you summoned me, Lady Tsunade. I did? Tsunade said tiredly. I don't remember. What's wrong, Lady Tsunade? Sakura said, performing a medical scan on her master. I'm okay, Sakura, really, Tsunade said to her. I'm just really tired is all. I couldn't sleep at all last night. There's this thing on my mind that I just can't seem to shake off. What's going on? Sakura asked. Anything that I can help with? It's not really a problem that can be fixed, Tsunade told her apprentice. Then what is it? Tsunade looked up at her apprentice and told her, I think, no, it just doesn't make any sense. I must be letting my old age get to me. Lady Tsunade, Sakura said to her teacher. You know you can tell me and Shizune anything, right? Just because you are the Hokage doesn't mean that you have to shoulder all of the stress. That's what we are all here for, to shoulder that burden with you, Taicho. So, what's the matter? You're right, Tsunade said with a smile. But, I think I should get Shizune in here too. It's a big deal. No problem, Sakura said. I'll go get her for you. Don't bother, Tsunade said. Watch this. Tsunade raised one hand slightly and snapped her fingers really hard one time. A few seconds later, Shizune came running in the office, Junin gear on and ready for battle. Lady Tsunade, Shizune said in confusion. What's going on? Ha 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 ha. Tsunade chuckled a little. Works every time. Oh no, Shizune whined. You did the immediate summon again. Come on, Lady Tsunade. The immediate summon? Sakura said, confused. Chuckling, Tsunade explained saying, it's a snap of the fingers that unleashes a short chakra wave. It acts as a sort of beacon, emitting waves of a chakra pulse. It's basically an emergency signal. That's pretty cool, Sakura exclaimed. You gotta teach me how to do that. All in good time, Tsunade said to her apprentice. Turning to her first apprentice, she said, I'm sorry about that Shizune, but I do need to talk to you. Tsunade stood up and went to the center of the room and performed a few hand signs, then clammed one of her palms against the ground. Ceiling arrays traveled all the way across the room and the ceiling. Once it was all complete, the seals disappeared. There, Tsunade said to the two of them. Now that the silencing seals are up, we can talk freely. Okay, so what's been bothering you, Lady Tsunade? Sakura asked. Is there something wrong, Taicho? Shizune asked her teacher as well. There is, Tsunade said. At least, I think there is. And I can't tell if it's just me or not, and that's what's driving me crazy. What is it? Shizune asked. You went to those 2 murder sites, right Shizune? Tsunade questioned. Hi, I did indeed, Shizune replied with a nod. Do you remember what was on the walls? Unfortunately, yes, Shizune answered. What was going on? What murder sites? Sakura asked. Yesterday, 2 murder victims were found dead, Shizune answered her fellow student. It wasn't pretty at all. That bad, huh? Sakura asked. Brutal, Tsunade said. I've never in all my years as a ninja have seen something so gruesome and brutal. The person who did it really wanted his victims to feel as much pain as humanly possible before he finished them off. Is it bothering you that you can't find the killer? Is that it, Lady Tsunade? Sakura asked. Actually no, that's the thing, Tsunade asked. She looked away slightly and said, I'm actually pretty sure I know who the killer is, but it just doesn't make any sense, it's impossible. What do you mean? Shizune said to her. The only way it'd be impossible if the murderer was already dead. Tsunade looked at Shizune dead in the eye and said to her student, exactly. Huh? Shizune said, completely clueless. What are you talking about? I'm saying that I think the killer, Tsunade said seriously, is, or was, dead. I don't know. That's what's driving me nuts. Who do you think the killer is? Shizune asked. Sakura was silent, she was pretty sure that she knew where this was going. Remember what the words on the wall said at both scenes? Tsunade said, trying to joggle her assistant's memory. It said things like, demon's vengeance, and, child killer, and the, demon has returned. So? Shizune said. Maybe someone was called a demon and is out to get some people? Exactly, Tsunade said. That's exactly what I'm saying. Now, the question is, who? I've got no idea, Sakura technically lied. Who was called, demon, his entire life? Tsunade said. Who was killed as a child? I don't know, Shizune said. Naruto Uzumaki, Tsunade exclaimed. I know it doesn't make any sense at all, but absolutely everything points directly at him. But, Lady Tsunade, Naruto died 10 years ago, Shizune said to her. How can he even be alive? He was killed. By the damn villagers, Tsunade said through grit teeth. Those worthless, sons of bitches out there, who, proudly, call themselves honored citizens of the Leaf, killed a damn child. A fucking child. I know it doesn't make sense, but I just know it's him. I didn't live this long because I never trusted my gut instincts, it's always gotten me by. And guess what? It's saying that Naruto is back. Tsunade fell to her knees and began crying in her hands. All of the years of searching, stress, and responsibility of caring for the village had caught up to her and she was breaking down. With all of that effort put in and never losing hope, she had absolutely nothing to show for it. Not being able to hold it in anymore, she just let the tears of frustration and hopelessness flow. Sakura kneeled down next to her teacher and put a comforting hand on her shoulder and said to her, "Lady Tsunade, what I'm about to tell you is a secret that absolutely cannot reach the rest of the village, okay?" "What are you talking about, Sakura?" Tsunade said, looking at her with tear-streaked cheeks. She looked up at Shizune and saw that she was also giving her an inquisitive look. "Before I tell you," Sakura began, "you must promise me that no one else will know about this. It's like a triple S-class secret now." "What is it?" Tsunade asked seriously. "Promise," Sakura said firmly. Tsunade hesitantly nodded her head. Sakura looked up at her fellow student and saw her nod her head as well. Sighing, she said, "You're actually dead on the nail, Lady Tsunade. Naruto Uzumaki is alive." Tsunade looked at her pink-haired student long and hard as she said, "Sakura Haruno, I'm giving you one chance to reiterate on that statement. I know you didn't just lie to me about something so important to me." "That's the thing, Lady Tsunade, I'm not lying. I've seen him myself," Sakura said to her. "And not just me, Ino Yamanaka and Hinata Hyuga have as well." Tsunade stood up quickly and pointed her finger in Sakura's face and shouted, "How dare you make such a statement without any sort of proof? You know how hard I've worked on trying to find him, how I never lost hope. Why are you trying to play me right now, Sakura Har? I am not lying to you, Tsunade Senju." Sakura yelled back at her teacher. Tsunade was shocked. She never had anyone address her as such in years. "How dare you say that I would lie to you, especially about a very emotional topic for you? I've seen him for myself. Do you honestly think that I didn't believe it at first either?" Sakura started breathing heavily and fell to her knees. She then started crying and said through her tears, I've treated him so bad in the past. And now he's back as I don't know what he is, but he's back." Tsunade studied her student for a long time. Finally, she couldn't believe it, but she was actually telling the truth. Naruto Uzumaki was alive. When did you discover this?" Tsunade said to her. "2 days ago," Sakura said. "I first saw him at the academy courtyard, on that little swing in the tree. He came out, and said that he was here, but not quite alive. He put it like he was his soul, but controlling a different body. That was the best way that he could explain it." "A different body?" Tsunade asked. "What do you mean? What body is it?" "I don't know," Sakura said. "I'm not sure what it is, but I know what it looks like." "Could you draw a picture for us?" Shizune said. Sakura nodded her head and said, "I'm not the best artist, but I could get my point across, yeah." 10 minutes later, Sakura had produced a picture, using the best of her limited artistic abilities to depict the hellspawn that she had seen just the other night. This is Naruto?" Tsunade asked. "It is now," Sakura said. "You can talk to Ino and Hinata for confirmation if you like." Tsunade shook her head and said, "That won't be necessary, I trust you. It's just, how did he come back? If I remember correctly, he said that the Shinigami allowed him to come back, but only in this form, and that he was going to kill those responsible for his murder. From what I understand, he's already started. Are you telling me that the Sandaime was responsible for the death of a kid?" Shizune said. "Judging by all of the work that he had left behind and the way he just neglected a child like that, it's not hard to believe," Tsunade answered. "And that store owner, Mr. Fingu, was it? Apparently he must have had a hand in it." "I guess so," Sakura said. "Sakura, can you possibly get Naruto to come see me?" Tsunade asked her. "I'm not sure," Sakura answered. "I mean, it's not like I can just visit him whenever I want. I have no idea where this guy is right now." "Then we make a signal for him," Tsunade said. "I'll call you two later, but for now, this conversation is over." Releasing the silencing seals, the two apprentices left and Tsunade returned to her desk and sat down. She leaned down and reached into one of her emergency sake stashes and pulled out 2 full bottles and said to herself, "Finally, I'll get to see my godson." She opened up one of the bottles and took several swigs and relished in the feeling of the warm liquid once again running down her throat. She put the bottle down with a sigh and smirked to herself. She raised the bottle one again and said to no one in particular, "Another toast to you, Naruto Uzumaki. She took another very large swig and set the bottle back down and said, "Now come tell me who did it so I can help you kick some ass." Sasuke was walking down the streets of his home village, enjoying the night air. It was his night shift on the Uchiha police force. Ever since the village had been receiving more and more of the technological advancements from the outside world, things had settled quite a lot. There were minor skirmishes here and there, but 90% PF the time, things were relatively peaceful. He was just taking a stroll through his village, or rather, that's what it really was. He was actually doing his rounds, but it seemed more like walk in the park than working for him right now. Not that he was complaining, of course. He walked by an alleyway and heard a snap and a muffled scream. He stopped dead in his tracks and faced the alleyway. Peering into the darkness, he retrieved a kunai and charged it with lightning chakra. He announced, as a member of the Uchiha police, "I order you to step out where I can see you. Do so, and you will not be harmed, but I will not hesitate to use deadly force if necessary." He just heard another muffled scream in response, followed by another snap and an even louder muffled scream of pain. Determining that this could be a life or death situation, Sasuke readied his lightning-charged kunai and tossed it inside the pitch-black alleyway. The kunai struck high upon the wall at the end of the alley and illuminated the area of the potential crime being committed currently. What he saw, he was not ready for. An absolutely massive cloth-like form was moving as it were alive. Sasuke could barely make out that it was holding a person high off of the ground. Another brighter flash of lightning from the chakra-charged kunai illuminated the cement ground below them. Sasuke noticed that there were limbs on the ground, literally have been ripped out from the person's body. Except that the limbs were not in whole pieces. Fingers, nails, joints, legs, knees, feet, shoulders, toes, whoever this person was, he was literally being ripped apart, piece by piece. What brought Sasuke out of his trance-like state was a very deep and hatred-felt voice that shouted one word. And that word, the sound, the passion behind that word, Sasuke knew, would stick with him for the rest of his life. V Ningia and C. Sasuke witnessed whatever was left of the man was literally ripped in half. Blood and gore showered every inch of that alleyway that Sasuke was just outside of. The creature threw one half of the body over his back towards the end of the alleyway, and it rolled to a stop just a few feet from Sasuke. It was literally only half of a torso and half of a head. Sasuke was shocked to see who it was. It was Danzo Shimura, one of the civilian council members. Sasuke heard a wet, sloshing sound. He looked up and saw the creature writing something on the wall with what he could only determine was the dead council member's blood, but he couldn't make out what was being written. The lightning-charged kunai that was still crackling only emitted a small amount of light. After the creature was done with whatever he had written, he took the other half of the body and crushed it, then threw it to the side like it was garbage. Sasuke almost pissed himself when red cloth wrapped themselves around his hands, feet, torso, and mouth and pulled him into the darkness in an instant. The next thing he knew, he was staring directly into the green eyes of the creature, and its eyes were emitting a green mist whenever the eyes narrowed angrily. "Innocent," the deep voice said. It let him go and he fell to the ground and landed on his rear. Sasuke winced and shakily stood up. It once again spoke to him. "Spread the word, Sasuke Uchiha. The demon has returned to seek vengeance on those guilty from 10 years ago. They know who they are. Those who are innocent, and will not be harmed. Those who are guilty, well, as you can see with this one, they shall be dealt with accordingly. Goodbye, Uchiha." Sasuke watched as the red cloth wrap around the figure and completely disappear within seconds. Not a trace of the creature was left. The only evidence that it was even here was the completely ripped apart form of what was once Danzo Shimura. Sasuke, using chakra, walked up the wall to retrieve his kunai. When he jumped off and landed, he brought it up, using the light from the lightning and read the message. "I am the fourth son. Vengeance against those who are guilty." Deciding that reporting to the Hokage was now best at this point, that's exactly what he went off to do. He never noticed the pair of green eyes that followed him the entire way there. Sasuke Uchiha ran into his Hokage's office, screaming out, "Lady Tsunade! Lord Danzo's been murdered." Tsunade was glad of the news. The old geezer was finally rid of. Her only regret was that she could have done it herself. She looked at the Uchiha police force member and faked her enthusiasm as she said, "How do you know this? What happened?" "I saw him being attacked in an alley on the streets during my patrols." "Did you see who the attacker was?" Tsunade asked. She hadn't even bothered to stand pee out of her chair. She really didn't care that the old traitor was dead. She would be celebrating later. "I saw the thing that attacked him, Lady Hokage," Sasuke said to her. "I really don't think it was a person though. I don't know what it is, Lady Tsunade. I thought it was a demon of some sort." "Did it say anything to you, Sasuke Uchiha?" Tsunade asked her subordinate. "Hi, Lady Tsunade. He told me that those who are innocent have nothing to worry about, but those who are guilty will be brought to justice. From 10 years ago. I have no idea what he means though, Lady Tsunade." "I don't either," Tsunade lied. "Was there anything else of importance at the scene?" "Hi, Lady Tsunade," Sasuke responded. "There was some writing in blood on the wall. It said something about being the fourth son and vengeance or something like that." Tsunade snapped her fingers and two Anbu appeared. "Take Sasuke Uchiha to the appointed scene and investigate," she commanded. "Again, quarantine the area, let no one approved by me directly in the area." "Understood?" "Hi," the two Anbu said to their leader. They grabbed the Uchiha member and shushed out of the office. Tsunade, once they were gone, reached down and grabbed another bottle of sake from her secret stash and giggled as she opened it up and raised it a little in the air and said to no one, "Damn you Naruto. Or whoever you are. You're doing things outside of the law that I wish I could do inside of it. You're making my life easier, so I've got no complaints. Kill more of those rat bastards." She tipped the bottle towards her mouth and took a few swigs, once again enjoying the warm liquid going down her throat. When she put the bottle down, the room went completely dark. Tsunade wasn't able to see anything at all. Tsunade, in an instant, launched a kunai at the corner of the room. She heard a squelching noise and looked at that area. She saw a little bit of a light green goo spilling out from the sides of the kunai she had just thrown. She then witnessed a shadow gripping the blade and pulled it out. She heard the metal clang, signifying the person, or demon, had dropped it on the ground. She looked at the wound caused by the kunai and watched as the green goo coming from it began to retract into the body as the wound closed up. She then saw two green eyes appear in the darkness, and they peered directly at her. Then, the deep voice of the demon spoke to her. "I understand that you've been looking for me," the voice said to her. "Well, here I am. What do you want?" Tsunade was wide-eyed as she said to it, "How did you know that I was looking for you?" "Such a stupid question," the demon answered. "Did you really think that I would just let Sasuke Uchiha go after he witnessed my act of justice?" "So that was you," Tsunade commented. "I had a feeling that it was." "I won't ask you again," the voice said to her. "You were looking for me. Why? I don't know why I'm even telling you this. It just sounds so damn crazy," Tsunade said. "But, I think I know who you are. It's not hard to see, I am a hellspawn." "No, I mean, who you really are. You were someone else before this. And I think I know. Then by all means, humor me. Are you my godson, Naruto?" Tsunade whispered. "Please, tell me who you are," Tsunade said. "Tell me," Tsunade exclaimed as she stood up. Frustrated at the years of searching, and yet hopeful that she would one day find her godson, was too much for her now. For her, this would be the make it or break it point. "Tell me, please," Tsunade practically begged. "I've been searching for my godson for so long. I couldn't believe that a child was killed, I couldn't lose hope, I just couldn't. I was searching for any sign that he was still alive. I never gave up, but I'm at my limit. I face criticism, I face ridiculed, along with so many other things. I've almost lost my position as Hokage because of it. But will not give in. Now that you, WOEVERUR, are in front of me, I need to know. WHO are you?" The hellspawn just looked down at her in the darkness, his bright, glowing green eyes the only things that were visible to Tsunade. Suddenly, the lights came back on, and Tsunade was in for a shock. There, right in front of her, stood the hellspawn. His large red shroud was surrounding him tightly, and the collar of the shroud surrounded his head enough to allow Tsunade to still only see his eyes. Her mouth was wide open, she had never seen anything like this before, in all of her years as a legendary Sannin. She could feel the power literally radiating from this being. Right away, she could tell that someone as powerful as she was, or even all three Sannin together, would not be able to survive against this creature. whoever, or whatever, it was. I have come to warn you. Do not send anyone after me. I have returned to punish those that have committed an unforgivable deed. The victim of that deed will deliver their soul to the Shinigami. If you should send anyone out to intercept or stop me, they also will be devoured by the Shinigami. It was then that Tsunade remembered the picture that Sakura had drawn for her reference. Her eyes widened as she recognized the one in the picture and the one in front of her now were one and the same. Oh my god, Naruto! Tsunade yelled. She ran up and hugged the hellspawn Naruto tightly. 8 years. Tsunade cried out. 8 years I have suffered, trying to search for you. I refused to give up. The second I heard that I had a godson, I rushed back here as soon as possible. I was missing something from my life, I couldn't tell what it was. But, I knew, the moment I heard about you, that you were the missing piece to the puzzle. I'm just so sorry that I never had a chance to come to you before. Maybe if I had known, I would have come much sooner, and you wouldn't have had to die, oh god. Tsunade continued to cry into the hellspawn's shoulder. Naruto hugged her back, pulling her in closely. I know, Naruto said to her. But, what's done is done. I have no choice but make with what I have. The only thing that I can do to right this wrong is to bring the heads of those guilty to the chopping block. I am here for the guilty. I know you saw the last murders. I am brutal for a reason. I want them to feel everything that I did. I want them to feel my pain and my misery. They will all die. Tsunade looked up at him and said, who was it? Who participated in your murder? Several villagers, along with a few, at the time, Chunin. I do not know who they were, but I will recognize them once I see them. I will never forget. Hopefully, Tsunade began, after all of this is done, I will get the chance to be a proper godmother to you, Naruto. I've always wanted a son. I miss Kushina and Minato. Oh, I miss them so much. About that, how come no one knows about my true heritage? That old dumbass, Hiruzen, decreed that your heritage should be kept secret to maintain Iwa's idea that he was dead with no legacy. It was for the protection of the village. But what I don't understand with that is how can you say that when a child from the village is being attacked by the people in his own home? Aren't you hurting your own village that way? Hiruzen was an absolute and selfish fool, wanting to maintain his title of God of Shinobi. He wasn't any better than me or Jiraiya. Old fool ruined your life. He could have. Unfortunately, it no longer matters. Also, I have already made him pay with his life. I made sure that he had suffered as much as possible before I killed him. Good, Tsunade said dismissively. He was just an old pervert who was really strong, nothing more. Tsunade, godmother, I want you to do something for me. Whatever you need, Tsunade said, nodding her head. Whatever I can do to help you now, please, let me know. I want you to reveal my true heritage to the village. Let them know who I really am, Naruto said to his godmother. What? Tsunade exclaimed. You do realize that if I do that, there is a very high chance that Iwa will come and attack the entire village to find and kill you, right? I mean, even though you're already dead. Tsunade had to wipe away a tear at that. It still doesn't mean they won't take it out on the village people. The room went really dark once more, and the red shroud that surrounded Naruto seemed to come to life, as if it was actively searching for prey. Hellspawn Naruto leaned down, only his green eyes visible. They narrowed dangerously, green mist coming from them. Tsunade heard him say to her, "Let them come." The Shinigami said he wanted 100 souls. I intend to send more. If Iwa does come, they shall pay the ticket. Hellspawn Naruto stood back up and the lights flickered back on. Tsunade now knew for certain that no one, probably not even an entire village, could stand up against him. He had the powers of hell at his side. I will reveal it, godson, Tsunade said. Can I say that you have returned? Like this? Naruto turned to walk away and stopped halfway. He then began to chuckle and said dangerously, "You know what? Yes, tell them. Tell them that the child they had sent to hell has come back to return the favor." Ha 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 ha. The red shroud enveloped Naruto and disappeared as he was laughing. Even though Tsunade was pretty damn scared of the figure that had just paid her a visit, she was glad that he was on her side. It, the Hellspawn, was her godson, Naruto Uzumaki. She went back to her desk and looked through some of her contact information. Even for someone as powerful as the newest Hellspawn, 100 souls was a lot. He was going to help. She did, after all, want to repay the bastards that killed him in the first place. She thought some good old-fashioned justice was due. She brought out a few thin books and flipped through the pages of one of which had Gotham on the front cover. Finding the 3 contacts she was looking for, she wrote it down and closed the book and moved on to the next one. The next book, which had Fu Man Ninja on it, she had found that one contact she was looking for, wrote it down, and closed the book and put it to the side as well. She grabbed another book, which the cover said, House of Valentine. She wrote down the necessary information for the alchemist in mind, and set that book to the side as well, along with the others. Her next book of contacts, this one called the Book of Passage, had only one source of contact as well. Recording it along with the others, she moved on to her next one. In her last book, titled Xavier Institute for the Gifted, she recorded 2 contacts and closed the book. Looking at her list of 8 contacts, she smiled, knowing that Naruto would like these people. They all fought for a greater good nowadays, well, most of them, but they all had experience in taking out the ones who deserved justice. Tsunade stood up and clapped her hands together once, and 10 Anbu appeared in front of her, kneeling and ready for their orders. Alright Anbu, Tsunade began, this is a simple retrieval mission. She grabbed the list of contacts. She handed it to one of her Anbu and told him, make copies for everyone here. The Anbu nodded and took the document from his leader's hands and put his other hand on top of it. He slid the hand to the side, and somehow, 8 more copies existed and he handed one out to each Anbu, then returned the original to his master. The 8 of you will split up into groups of 2, a total of 4 groups. You will each go and deliver an urgent message to each one of the names of the list currently in your hands. What is the message, Hokage-sama? The Anbu who made the extras asked. The message is this. The 5th Hokage of Konohagakure, Princess Tsunade Senju of the 3 legendary Sannin, requires them to report to the Leaf Village immediately. This is not a request. And if they refuse, Lady Hokage? Another Anbu asked. Tsunade smiled as she said, tell them that the princess is cashing in their favors from a long time ago. And, they will be paid handsomely. Any other questions? This mission is time sensitive, ladies and gentlemen. No response was given, so Tsunade took her hand, made a chopping motion to her side and said, mission commence. Hi. The 8 Anbu vanished a moment later. Tsunade down in her chair and exhaled deeply. It was then that the elders Kaharu and Homura walked in and said to her, Tsunade, what are you doing about the murder of Lord Danzo? Tsunade, after years of searching and going around the law and dealing with the elders' crap, had finally snapped. She had finally seen her godson, and even though she got to see him, knew that she had been delayed and justice had been diverted for so long from his case, mainly from the elders. She snapped as she stood up and yelled at them. I really don't give a damn about that damn traitor. Tsunade Senju yelled out. Homura began yelling in return. How dare you talk to the village elders like th? In a flash, Tsunade was in front of the old man and grabbed him by the throat. She delivered 1, 2, 3, 4 chakra-enhanced punches to his gut, and then slammed him against the wall. Naruto is alive, she yelled at him and Kaharu. He is alive, and you too, along with Danzo, are directly responsible for his suffering. I am his godmother, appointed by both Kushina and Minato themselves. And you just stood by and cursed your great hero's son because of a foolish mind. You took him away from me, and you took away his life. I will take yours. Tsunade brought her fist back, ready to deliver the fatal blow. No. Tsunade stopped halfway and looked at the source of the voice. In the opposite corner of the office, there he stood. The Hellspawn Naruto. They are mine, Naruto said slowly. Tsunade looked back at the 2 older fools and said to them both, I feel sorry for you too. The one who killed Danzo and the fat fuck of a shop owner. The brutality of their gruesome murders? He is responsible. Good luck. Tsunade let go of the old man's throat and walked back to her desk. She sat down and prepared to watch a really good show that she was sure was about to take place. Kaharu was shocked and paralyzed with fear. She looked up at the hellspawn that seemed to glide towards her as the lights flickered off and said, plural, please, have mercy. I did nothing to you. That, unfortunately, only served to piss the hellspawn off even more. The last thing that Kaharu witnessed was a chain with a skull-like front with 4 hook-like blades on it latch onto the front of her face. She tried grabbing the chain to pull it off, but every time she did, the blades of the skull front only dug deeper. Then, her world exploded in a blast of pain like she had never felt before. The blades of the skull chain began spinning around the head, like a circular saw, and at a blazing speed. The edges of her face were being flung all over the place from the speed of the blades. The skull chain and blades then started to progress forward, cutting and shredding her entire face and head. The woman's hands were clenched tight on the chain that was literally burrowing its way through her head. Her entire body shook with pain and shock. After about 30 seconds, the back of the older woman's head was shredded off as well, and the skull chain with the 4 blades stopped spinning as it fell through the back of her head. The blades retracted back through the dead woman's almost non-existent head and back to the hellspawn. Homura could only witness in absolute horror as he watched his one-time partner's head be completely drilled through. The only thing that was left of her head was the very top and the sides. Everything else had been sawed and grated away by the chain. If you're having a hard time imagining what it looks like, think of Jackie's fatality in MKX when she punches the person's head clean through. Homura watched as the near-headless woman's body trembled a little bit before it just collapsed onto the floor in a bloody heap. The brain matter and blood decorated the Hokage's office. Then, he saw the hellspawn come for him. He tried to crawl back against the wall, like he was trying to push through it to get away from the demon. Alas, for Homura, the hellspawn reached him. Naruto bent down and grabbed the old man by the collar of his shirt and stood up, raising the old man in the air. Who are you? Homura gasped out. The hellspawn Naruto's eyes narrowed and green mist came out from them as he brought the older man closer, almost to where their noses were touching. I'm your worst fucking nightmare? Naruto pulled back a hand and Homura saw the already sharp claws at the end of the hellspawn's fingers become a little thicker and elongate. His eyes then widened with surprise and pain like no other when Naruto shoved his clawed hand into the old man's gut. Inside, but not clean through his body. Homura then grimaced in severe pain and twitched a little, feeling the hellspawn's hand grab at his insides. Vengeance. A whole new world of pain was introduced to Homura as Hellspawn Naruto, using the hand that was inside of the elder, literally ripped the guts out of the old man. Homura gasped and couldn't breathe as he saw at least 10 feet worth of his own intestines and stomach lining on the floor. He felt Naruto continue to rip out his insides. Stomach, intestines, liver, kidneys, all of the center organs were literally ripped out of him and thrown on the floor like they were garbage. Naruto finally buried his demonic arm elbow deep as he reached up in the man's chest and grabbed his rapidly beating heart. Homura, now barely alive, on his last couple of breaths, heard Naruto say to him, FFELLLLLL, MMYYYYYY, PAINNNNNN. The hellspawn Naruto then literally ripped the old man's heart out of its chest cavity and then out of the body entirely. Naruto slammed the heart onto the ground, smashing it to bits. He then rose the gutless body above his head and ripped the body in half, like Sub-Zero does in MKX. Then tossed the 2 halves to the side as if they were garbage. Oh my god, Tsunade said. I'm sure they both deserved that, but... Tsunade turned to the side and lost her lunch. After about a minute of vomiting and dry heaving, she shakily sat back up and watched the hellspawn raise his hands, and green fire appeared in the entire room. What the? Don't worry. It is a cleansing fire, it will not damage or harm anything that I do not mean for it to. You are safe. The fire will extinguish itself once all evidence of this act of retribution is completely erased. Have a good day, godmother. With that, the hellspawn Naruto disappeared via his shroud. About 10 minutes later, the green fires slowly faded out of existence. Tsunade, the whole time, just sat there and thought of all that had just transpired. She had just witnessed the 2 elders of the village be brutally murdered, and then a hellish green fire was summoned to clean up the mess. She was really glad that he was on their side.
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.